Thank you all. Ms. City Clerk, can you please confirm that we have a quorum?
Have present. Member Wolfley, Mayor Pro Tem Debumalu, Councilmember Gardner, Councilmember Hawkins, and Councilmember Truesdale.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. All right, at this time, I will now call for any agenda additions, deletions, or amendment. I can go ahead and make an amendment to the agenda. I'd like to entertain a motion to move item E under new business, ICSC recap, and place that on the September 18th meeting. I'll now entertain a motion for any amendments, additions to the agenda. Item E under new business, ICSC recap, to move to September 18th meeting. Yes.
I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem. Okay.
I would like to file a motion to ICSC recap from the new business portion of the agenda and move it to September 18th.
I'd like to second that.
And I'll now call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same favor. Motion carries. All right. And now we'll move on to citizen participation. Madam City Clerk, do we have citizen participation for this evening?
Via email. They have been forwarded to council, but we do have some members also present this evening.
Meredith Conitz, please feel free to come forward.
Thank you. So my name is Meredith Conitz. I'm the founder of Art Play Learn, a Bowie-based company that provides education services. And we are partnering with Mentorship Through Athletics, which is also a Bowie-based company, to provide Bowie residents, third graders through eighth graders, with free tutoring services over the course of the year. What's unique about our program is that we are integrating the academic skills practice into competitive athletics practice. So the kids, as they come in to practice their basketball or their baseball or soccer or whatever, are also getting spelling practice, reading comprehension practice, writing practice, and math skills practice all at the same time. So it's a way of getting the kids to come in to be excited about learning, even if they're having trouble in school, and to practice those skills in a visceral way, which makes stronger brain connections. So I am here to support the budget amendment to fund this program. Thank you.
Claps. Next, I'll call forward Brene Ellis. The floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here on behalf of Mentoring Through Athletics as a parent and advocate for this program. My child, who has had to switch schools, I believe that this has definitely helped her as far as just being able to relate, being able to communicate with her peers, as well as, in our world, sports is very important. However, I love that they teach the importance of the academics, and they're patient no kid is left behind in the sense of everybody gets their time. Everybody is helped in the way that they need the help. So I think that this program is definitely beneficial, and I would love to see it, progress. Thank you.
So Bowman?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vanessa Bowman on behalf of Mentoring Through Athletes. I'm also a parent of two athletes this season for soccer. Mentoring Through Athletes has made such an impact on the community. Just as we are reaching one of the highest inclines of parents beginning to transition to stay-at-home parents, just due to childcare funding and different things as that, I am one of those parents where I've just had to quit my job, to resign, and begin to take care of my 1-year-old child now. But Mentoring Through Athletes has made a huge impact in my home. They have allowed my children the funding that they have created resources for my 2 children to be able to come at the expense of the funding that they're provided. So if they can make such a huge impact in my family, just imagine what the funding they can do nationwide. So I definitely am an advocate of what they're doing for the community.
Thank you so much. Alrighty, at this time, since we don't have any presentations this evening, I'll go ahead and move on to city boards and committees. Council, could you please move to appoint board members?
Dr. J. Fagan to Ethics Commission and Community Recreation Committee. Oh, excuse me, Board of Elections. And then, I would also like to move to make a motion to approve Mr. Carl Stemmer to the Ethics Commission and Community Recreation. Board of Elections. Got you. Okay. Also, I'd like to make a motion to approve Miss Mia Russell to the Board of Elections and Tony Jones as well to the Board of Elections.
I'd like to second that.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same favor. The motion carries. Miss Russell and Miss Jones, could you please come forward? Raise your right hands. And then repeat after me. I, your name, do swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland and support the Constitution and laws thereof. And that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment, diligently and faithfully, without partiality or prejudice, execute office of regular member of regular member, state the committee, according to the Constitution and laws of this state. Thank you. Oh, come forward.
Thank you so very much. We appreciate it.
Alrighty. At this time, are there any council announcements? Does anyone have any council announcements? Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Deborah Maru. I have a question for staff. I received a couple emails regarding and concerns from a couple constituents asking about any updates on the security or systems within City Hall for perhaps to deter an active shooter at City Hall. So they wanted to provide if we have any updates on the plans that we were outlining for City Hall, the protection of the building and its staff. Yes, and I am too. Yes, and I am too.
In regards to security for city facility, that's not something that we will be discussing publicly in regards to the measures that we have associated. That is something that we can discuss with the city council. Those sessions we can talk about what our process is in regards to issues.
For security. There's a number of people just, and I got another couple of emails prior to coming out. They were asking for, like, for instance, the safety of constituents when they come out for city council meetings, as well as city staff during the daytime hours, and if people are going in to pay utilities, getting animal licenses and things of that nature.
For the public to know in regards to how they should.
Yes, exactly. This particular resident was saying that they were concerned. They recently came into City Hall to make a water bill payment, and while there was an irate resident that was, and it sort of alarmed them. And I understand city staff or someone worked to calming the situation, but it led to other conversations and interests. For instance, should we or should we not have a weapons monitor machine to watch the entrance and things of that, to guard the entrance and exits of the city?
Let's have a discussion with the city council in regards to what we do for security measures that we don't share publicly, and we may come away with having some things that maybe we want to share as best practices for our residents and guests in our facilities for how they may want to act or prevent themselves from being in a public environment. Thank you.
That's all that I had. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
The first one is there has been a thread that's been going around on Nextdoor regarding the closure of Giant at Collington Plaza. At this time, that has not been confirmed. I've connected with Southlake because essentially the thread on Nextdoor is saying that Giant at Collington Plaza has stated that they are moving to Southlake, which is not entirely accurate at this time. And so Giant has not made any type of statements to confirm that they are closing the store at Collington Plaza. Neither has Southlake confirmed that they are closing that store to move to Southlake. However, the delineation that I would like to draw is that, yes, there is a Giant opening at Southlake, but that does not mean the one in Collington Plaza is closing to go to Southlake. So I just want to draw that clarification. At this time, that has not been confirmed. So yes, that is solely a rumor for what we know at this time. And we do have our economic developer following up on that, our economic development director following up on that with Giant. So when we receive confirmation, then we will be sure to share that information out. So I just wanted to kind of draw some delineation about that. Also, in addition, I've also received a number of different complaints about Pointer Ridge Plaza in terms of the maintenance of some of the stores and the upkeep of the trash in that area. Essentially, DPI has been notified, and so now it is in the hands of DPI to take that in whichever direction they determine necessary. And so as we get notified, we'll also follow up with you on what the outcome of that is as well. And then the last thing that I want to highlight is the trash along 301 corridor, 301 and 214. Essentially, Maddie, who's taking point on that is with our city government, is taking the lead on liaisoning with State Highway on that, which she's working with the engineering director. Her name is Erica on that. So essentially, our ask has been that they clean up the trash on 301 and 214 Court a little bit more frequently. And so we will notify you if that improves, and they are committed to doing that a little bit more frequently. So I just want to make an announcement that those comments and concerns have been heard, and we are making sure that we act and follow up on that. So as we get more information, we'll also follow up with more information. Alrighty, at this time, I'll move on to the city manager's report, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Assistant City Manager.
I'd like to mention for those watching at home, you may notice that we are in a different environment this evening. We are located in the Ken Hill Center. Currently at City Hall and our council chambers, we're undergoing audio-visual upgrades. We had planned to take the month of August to go through and do the AV upgrades, and as we got an update last week in regards to the status, we were a little uncertain as to whether or not we would get completed or not. So we decided to make the decision to go to Plan B and have everybody come back to the Ken Hill Center for a city council meeting. It's been quite a number of years since there's been a city council meeting in this building, so I hope everybody's enjoying the retro feel to coming back over here today. So we anticipate all those upgrades are going to be complete, and we'll be back in our regular council chambers for our next meeting on September 18th. That's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Alrighty, at this time, I'll now move on to the consent agenda, and I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda. Awesome, it's been moved and properly second. Those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, same favor. Motion carries. We do not have any old business this evening, so I'll move on to item A under new business, which is a briefing and a presentation from our Maryland Technology Council. Representatives from the Maryland Technology Council will be able to brief staff or brief residents and the city council on the benefits and programs that are available to the city. And then I'll yes, it's Kelly Schultz. I'll also just give a brief background on this agenda item, as I was the one who also placed it on here. If you remember, back in 2022, we set a strategic priority to attract more technology companies to the city of Bowie. So as a part of that effort, we have invited the Maryland Technology Council, who is a great resource throughout the state of Maryland that has a membership program for a number of different technology businesses, where they provide certain programs and benefits to the members that are a part of their organization. And they'll be here tonight to brief the council on ways that we can also tap in further to their programs and to the Maryland Technology Council, which I happen to be a steering committee member for Prince George's County. So I'm very excited to hear the presentation from Kelly Schultz, who is their CEO. Welcome, Kelly.
A member of the Maryland Tech Council, because you are, yay. So this happened in March of 2022, from what I understand. And so the city of Bowie is a full-fledged member, and I wanted to let you know, and also your constituents know, all of the great things that can happen for you and what we're doing, especially here in Prince George's County. So first of all, the Maryland Tech Council is a wonderful organization. It's an advocacy organization. This is not me on the screen. We did not come with a PowerPoint, but you do have the information in front of you. And we're happy to share with any of your constituents as well, because I think we have some extras. But we are an advocacy organization for industries within biohealth, life science, and technology in general. We are the largest association of our kind in the state of Maryland. We have roughly 750 members. Everything from the biotech world to the cyber world to emerging energy markets and sustainability and beyond. And our job at the Maryland Tech Council is to be able to service our members so that we can create the best ecosystem in Maryland for these industries to grow and prosper. So with that, within the ecosystem is entities like the city of Bowie, which is some government entities, some higher education facilities like University of Maryland and Johns Hopkins, and Bowie State University, which is also a member, but also support members, those that are doing finance and accounting and being able to make these industries grow. So what we do is we bring this ecosystem together and we do a lot of advocacy work. So we make sure that our friends and our colleagues in Annapolis, when they're making decisions on policies, they make decisions that's going to help to support and lift up this community, and also do the same thing in Washington, D.C. Many of our members think that the best part of being a part of the Maryland Tech Council is our networking events. We have over 100 networking events a year. That keeps us very busy. It brings us to wonderful places like Bowie to be able to do fun things. And that's a really big part of just people getting to know people and how to do business and where to go. And then we do programming that is very specific to what their needs are. We may do mentoring sessions, and we have a wonderful mentoring program that is modeled after MIT. And we do educational programming, and we just really try to do everything we can to bring this market together and to help to grow and expand. So a couple of years ago, which is about the same time that the city of Bowie became a member of the Maryland Tech Council, Prince George's County, some businesses in Prince George's County came to the Maryland Tech Council and said that they wanted to start a chapter of the Maryland Tech Council. So we officially have a chapter, the first chapter of MTC. We've not done that before, and we're just getting our feet wet and figuring out how to do it. But Prince George's chapter of the Maryland Tech Council is alive and going. And Madam Mayor Pro Tem has, yes, graciously agreed to be on the steering committee to bring us forward, to pull these businesses together so that Prince George's County can have our tech hub and our bio hub to be able to support those businesses that are out there. And we're very much appreciative of that. There is some upcoming events in Prince George's County. I brought with me Pam, who knows a lot more than I do. She is our vice president of membership. And we're putting programs together. And I think my point today is to be able to make sure that all of you know that those events exist, that as your positions and the whole staff in the city of Bowie, they're automatically members of the Maryland Tech Council as well, and can and should attend events to find out who those businesses are, who those leaders are, who those entrepreneurs are in your neighborhood, so that we can help to continue to grow them as well. We are a statewide organization, but it's critical to have that local support so that each of our areas around the state have that dynamic ability to be able to grow and prosper along with the rest of the state. And I'm happy to take any questions specific as it relates to your membership opportunities. Oh, I should tell you this. You have a membership portal as a way to be able to speak out to your world. There is a membership portal where you can put anything on there. If you want to attract a workforce, if you want to advertise, it's a member-to-member type of portal. And we would like all of you, maybe you don't have to vote on it in official capacity, but we need a person so that we can reach out to, so that we can help to build that portal and find out how you can get the most from your membership, and so that you can really relay to the rest of the members what it is that you can do here at the city of Bowie. And we're happy, of course, to help you with that.
Much for coming out to share more about the Maryland Technology Council and ways that we could be leveraging it as a city government. At this time, I'll see if my colleagues have any questions for Kelly or any comments. Councilmember Gardner.
Very, very much. Great to see you again as well, Kelly. Great to see you. I do have a question. Some of you mentioned that not just municipalities or governments that are members of MTC, but also some of the private firms. Could you give me just some, if it's okay, to share with me some of those firms and how they work with communities?
I'll give you a great example. So there are obviously private sector firms. That is the majority of our membership, is either a life science company. If you think about AstraZeneca or Emergent, right? So some of the big companies, but we also have smaller emerging companies. So at Bowie State University, there is an incubator there. And so that incubator, which is separate from Bowie State University, we learn all of that, that incubator is a member of the Maryland Tech Council. So it takes advantage of the programs that we have available to the incubator, but we provide to all of those baby companies within the incubator, they all have a courtesy membership. while they're growing their business so that they have access to the ecosystem and the resources that are surrounding them, because our objective is to get them to grow outside of their baby company into a company that's much larger.
If you would share me an example of some of the benefits, like that, how a smaller company that are members of the big receives some funding from our constituency and the city of Bowie. So how would they benefit? Like, what are some of the benefits that, say, some of those smaller firms that are looking to grow would receive from being a member of the MTC?
And when we do membership surveys, really, I would say it's kind of tied. There is a great need to have that networking opportunity. So those smaller companies being in the same room as some of the larger companies. And when we talk about building an ecosystem, it's literally about making sure that people have mentors that are built into their surroundings. And the more of those types of businesses that exist, the more successful the existing businesses will be. So they love the networking opportunities and they continue to show up in droves for that. But we also have cost saving programs that are built in for all members. So take note of this, of anyone that is in procurement here in the city. So as a member, you can get discounts, very significant discounts on things like UPS and Office Depot. And there's some healthcare. And people that have a big lab or a small lab, you can get significant discounts in purchasing laboratory equipment. And so there's many of those cost savings that come to as a member-only benefit for those that are members of our organization, which some, especially some of the larger companies that may have to buy by the bulk when it comes to test tubes. Think of this, kids. This is a STEM lesson for you. Go into STEM because it's exactly where you need to be. There's jobs all over the place. We can help you. It's good. We need bodies in STEM, and we need smart people to go and do these good things. So these companies are constantly building up, and we're able to offer them savings that they can't get otherwise.
And you mentioned healthcare. So some of these smaller groups can buy or like healthcare for. Oh, that's fantastic, because that is an issue. I have met with a number of smaller organizations here in the county as well as the region, and many of them as startups have issue with finding healthcare.
And with that, I will say there's plenty of opportunities for them. Anybody that wants to have conversations with us about our benefits package, just reach out. You have the contact information. The staff has the contact information, so we're happy to reach out and steer anybody in the direction that they need to go. But one thing, because I steered into these kids behind me that I love so much, because sports and tutoring and school and the whole thing. STEM is so important, and these businesses are so important to the state of Maryland in general. It is, without a shadow of a doubt, our biggest area of economic growth opportunities, which is in these life science and tech occupations. And we have to develop the students, the future workforce, in order for them to be able to allow these businesses to continue to grow, and for allowing these students the opportunity to go into careers that they may never have thought that they would be able to go into a laboratory and create this. So we're working on BioHub Maryland, which is a workforce development project, and bringing students at the entry level without college educations into a laboratory and providing them opportunities for their future as well. So it's meaningful work that we do at the Maryland Tech Council for all of you. Happy to provide any information. We're always so gracious for government entities that have constituents that you're addressing to be a part of this organization, because you can really tap into what we're doing and expand on it however you choose to do.
Thank you for sharing it with me. Thank you. But that's all.
Good to see you.
What a treat and delight, and thank you for coming to the city of Bowie. Just want to get a sense, either from you or the Maryland Tech Council, what are you all excited about? What's on the forefront? What are some of your concerns? How can the city of Bowie be helpful in help you achieve some of your goals?
about. I'm excited that we've had growth. I've been within the organization since last November, so I'm almost to my first year. But we do see an elevated excitement about building ecosystems and coming together and creating, good things for those future generations. So I think that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about parts of the state, like here in Prince George's County, where we have College Park, University of Maryland, where it is basically world renowned for the beginning of the quantum revolution. And that's happening right here in the state, right here in Prince George's County. And that's something that we should all be excited about, even if we don't understand it. We should be excited about it. I don't pretend to be a physicist, but there's good things that are happening there. I'm excited about the new opportunities that come from that and emerging technologies, because they're wonderful opportunities for young people to get involved with basically at the ground floor, and they can start learning and educating themselves. As far as the city of Bowie is concerned, I think looking around at your resources and your assets that you have as far as those types of businesses that are here, envelop them in the growth of an ecosystem locally. There's nothing too small, right? Understanding who those businesses are, how they're helping to contribute to this growth in the state, and making sure that they're connected at the county level, and then making sure that they're connected at the state level. And then we can all bring them in, and everybody has a different flavor for what it is that their locality looks like, but it's all the same mission. Of course.
Councilmember Gardner.
Very much as you build your calendar and your networking opportunities and events, I would very much so love to have one hosted here in the city of Bowie, perhaps our city hall or someplace of that nature. What you're offering to small and local business is incredible. It's
Member of the steering committee of the Prince George's chapter. So I have no doubt that there is going to be a hosted event right here in the city of Bowie. And as a matter of fact, Pam and I, we sort of pre-gamed and went for dinner at the Old Town Bowie Grill. Did I say that right? We'll be back. Let me just say that. We didn't know that it was Taco Tuesday, but we'll be prepared next time. It's going to be all good. I had a salad, but it was a very, very good salad.
The comments that I want to make is, first of all, thank you so much for coming out to the city of Bowie and presenting us with this wonderful information. Like we said, back in 2022, we set a strategic priority that we were going to try our best to attract more tech companies to be based in the city of Bowie, because we understand how much of an emerging market that technology is. And also, when you think about bio and life and health sciences, one of our biggest business in Ovalon is a health sciences company that does $667 million in revenue year over year. And so it's clear that that market is there. And also, about a month ago, we received a presentation from, was it KNLB, which is a huge development consulting firm that shared with us some of the trends in where businesses are going and those that are going into brick and mortar businesses. And also health and life sciences was at the top of the list of what they presented to us. And so we look forward to really understanding how we can better leverage our partnership with you and how we can take better advantage of our membership, because I think I echo the sentiments of Councilmember Gardner. We really want to make sure that we attract more businesses to Bowie so that people can live and thrive and work in this wonderful, beautiful city that we have. And so what I will be looking to learn is how we can take better advantage and how we can possibly look at some of your businesses and ask them to come put their home base in Bowie and create opportunities for us.
I got no problem with where they go.
Or one more thing that's a really great and huge benefit for us. one, being a member and also being a part of that steering committee, we've also talked about this for the last couple of years, how the city of Bowie sometimes isn't always in the room when it comes to Prince George's County issues. So now to have a member of the city of Bowie to be on that steering committee that's working hand in hand with David Iannucci and Wanda Gibson, who is the CIO for Prince George's County, and helping to shape those priorities, we can make sure the needs and the wants of Bowie are in that room and at the forefront and top of the center. And I'm always going to advocate for District 4. So with that being said, thank you so much for coming out. We appreciate your presence and we look forward to understanding how we can better take advantage of our partnership.
I look forward to many more opportunities for us all to get together. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Item B under new business, after school fellowship program for Bowie High School students. Mr. Scott Reichler will present, he's with LearnServe as the CEO, will present to council on an overview of the program. So just before I turn it over to Scott, I will also share a brief background as the person who did put this on the agenda again as well. Here's an opportunity for us to really service the needs of our community and provide a high school program to the city of Bowie. And I think my intent with placing this on the agenda was, one, to learn more about the program. I happened to learn about LearnServe being out and about, and really as a member of the education committee, learning about different educational opportunities that are out there. And so I did invite Scott to come out to our community to present on what opportunities could be there for the city of Bowie. And as I continue to have conversations with constituents in District 4, it's clear that we need to find a way to get our high school students engaged. And I think what is being presented here this evening and what's being proposed is, one, a unique opportunity to provide leadership skills as well as social change and entrepreneurship skills to our high school students to ensure that they're honing in on their skills and their capacities in a very different way, but then also get more students engaged by providing a hackathon for them to come up with great ideas of things that we can be doing here in the city, and engaging our business communities as mentors to really just have an increased presence in our children's lives. And so that was my intent with placing this agenda item on the agenda tonight. And so now I'll turn it over to Scott with LearnServe. Thank you for coming out to Bowie.
Thank you very much. No, it's an honor to be here with you all this evening. My name is Scott Reichler. I'm co-director of LearnServe. I'm here with one of my colleagues, Ann Schoolcraft, as well as one of our alumna and a Bowie resident, Velma Ferneve, who will join me up here in a moment. And it's really an honor to be here, and especially after hearing two of the other organizations present, the Mentoring in Athletics focusing on the K-8 space, and then the Maryland Tech Council focusing on college and the professional realm that comes after college. And we are focused solidly on high school age students and creating opportunities for them. I personally am here for two reasons. One, a belief in the power of young people to create change, and the other out of a concern for the well-being of young people right here, right now, especially in this period that we're living in now. To begin with, a question for reflection. We won't have time for discussion, but just to plant a seed, both for you all and everyone in the room, and we like to start with questions in our work, is when was the first time that you felt the power to create change? When was that moment in your life where you felt like, I can make a difference in my community, I can make a difference in my community? And for me, that was very solidly in high school, where I realized at some point that if I had an idea and a plan and a little bit of support and built out a team, that I could make something happen in a substantive way. And I was fortunate to have a community of peers as well as mentors and others who created that space and gave me guidance. And the work of LearnServe really is to do that for other young people, to ensure that every single young person experiences and feels that power to create change in their own lives. When I think about it, my own teenage years, I don't know about for you all, but it's never easy actually being a teenager, that there's all the academic pressures, there's the family stresses, there's the college pressures, there's the social pressures. Social media certainly is not helping it in that respect. But the part that I've been really worried about right now is what young people, what high school students, what teenagers today are facing. That every single one of them has just lived through a global pandemic, as we all have. They are in a very real sense, living the realities of climate change. We just had our second close to 100-degree day in September right now, several days where we couldn't go outside this summer because of smoke from wildfires in Canada. We are living that, and there's that existential fear. Around this region, gun violence and violence in general are escalating, and so both the lived trauma as well as the fear and anxiety. Gun violence is very real. Questions, am I going to get a job? Am I going to be able to support myself and my family? All of that is weighing on young people today. And so it's not surprising that 40% of them, this was a CDC study from 2023, released this past February, 40% of them reported feeling sad or hopeless at some point in the past year. And even as they're dealing with these really real world issues, only 1 in 4 of them feel that their education, their schooling has real world applications. And so we've got a pretty big problem here for the young people themselves, but if you extrapolate out, that means that if they're not realizing their full potential, academic settings like Bowie State are going to miss out, the Maryland Tech Council is going to miss out on those new businesses that are coming in here, and all of us as invested community members are going to miss out on their new ideas and their solutions for the social problems that we're all facing. And so in my 20 years of working in this field, I've realized that that is not the full reality of young people. Too often as adults, we sort of write them off as part of the problem, or we say they're just apathetic and they're disengaged, or we say, oh, they're the leaders of tomorrow, let's support them now. And what I've seen is that young people are the leaders of here and now today. And so really this is the work of LearnServe, as one of our alumni said, to channel students and young people's anger into passion and their passion into action. And we do that through our social entrepreneurship programs that take place in an extracurricular context. There's several elements that are core to what we do. The first one is bringing together students from really diverse backgrounds, so racially diverse, socioeconomically diverse, academically diverse, and put them in the driver's seat. Ask them what pisses you off in your community and what do you want to do about it, and put them in the driver's seat to do something about it. We've got opportunities for them to connect with peers in Zambia and Paraguay and other countries around the world who are engaged in change making, both virtually and in-person opportunities. And then we provide coaching and more holistic support to meet students where they're at, supporting their personal development and professional development, not just their social venture ideas. And so the invitation really for young people here in Bowie for this first year is for, we've proposed 10 young people from Bowie to join our first year fellowship. This is a academic year-long program that meets once a week in Washington, D.C. with young people from Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. coming together, and it's an introduction to social entrepreneurship, guiding them through the process of taking an idea, something that makes them mad in their community, and eventually turning that into action and standing in front of a room full of folks like ourselves and saying, here's what I'm going to do, here's my plan, let's make this happen. Those who want to continue on with us can join our virtual incubator program. They'll be joined either by students from Zambia or from Paraguay and go through a deeper dive in developing their social venture ideas. And then starting this summer 2024, students who are graduating from the incubator program will have the opportunity to travel overseas to meet with their peers in Zambia or Paraguay and get a firsthand understanding of what social change looks like in a totally different country context. And our hope is that by the end of these 2.5 years, students come out with a really deep grounding in their own individual social and emotional skills, a sense of their passion, purpose, who they are in the world, that they develop a greater appreciation for the communities that they're part of, the diversity of those communities, both locally and globally, and the social justice issues affecting those communities, and that they develop some of the business, professional, and entrepreneurial skills, which are totally transferable into any industry they choose to go on into afterwards. And what we've seen over the past 20 years is that this works. One of my favorite stats is the one in the middle, which is 2/3 of them continue to volunteer or engage in their community in an active way after their LearnServe experience. It's a select group, so that's sort of expected. The one that stood out to me is that more than half of them are serving in leadership roles. So they're a founder, they're on a board, they're serving in a city council capacity like this. They are the ones who are creating the social change that's happening. So I want to invite up Velma to share a little bit from a firsthand experience. This is just for me, but as an alum, what this has meant for you.
Hello everyone, my name is Velma Fanibi. A little nervous, still bear with me. But my journey at LearnServe started in 2022 when I joined their Fellows program. And in the beginning, my venture was centered around providing materials for displaced Cameroonian youth, because I grew up in Cameroon and I saw that was a community I wanted to make a change in. The next year, I was able to join the incubator program, which is the follow-up program from Fellows. And through that program, I was able to develop my second venture, which is called Heritage, which focuses on providing hair care services and hairstyling services for unhoused women in Baltimore and the DC region. And in addition to being an incubator student, I also served as an intern for the next year's Fellows program. So I had a lot on my plate my last year of high school. And I think one thing about this experience that has been so different from anything I experienced at school was the devotement to community that was shown through the program. So through my LearnServe experience, I was able to win 2 scholarships, one for the Hamilton for Progress Advancement Scholarship and the Burger King Scholarship, which is now helping me as I enter into my first year of UMBC this fall. LearnServe was also there to nominate me for the Posse Scholarship, through which I was offered a full tuition scholarship at Lewis and Clark University. And when I was a fellow, other students at my high school wanted to participate in the Fellows program, but fortunately, due to lack of transportation, we were unable to make that a reality. So I was the only one that was able to participate and get this amazing experience. And the reason that why I appreciate LearnServe so much is because of the community and the staff that they build there. I can remember countless times where I would call a LearnServe support member, Latrina Bowman, my favorite person, and I would call her just stressed over like college applications. I would call her like last minute, Latrina, I need a recommendation letter for the scholarship. Please help me out. And she would send it in like the next 2 hours. Like when you really build a relationship with the staff, they're super helpful. Even Anne sitting right here, I remember I had her go over my like college essay, my 500th draft maybe, and she was just so supportive and so helpful throughout the whole college experience. So I think the whole high school experience. Even now in college, I just talked to Latrina last week, and she was just encouraging me to go forth and really put my best foot forward at UMBC. And so I think that's a really great experience, and that's why I'm so excited to stand here and see the potential for LearnServe to act in Bowie and help other students the way they've helped me. So, thank you.
So that is the invitation for you all. Our hope is that this would be a multi-year engagement, that for this year, having students from Bowie come and be part of the LearnServe Fellows program, and hopefully with the assistance from the city, overcome some of those transportation barriers that Velma and I were wrestling with last year as she was recruiting students. And then also have a half-day hackathon at some point on a topic that the city would help to decide and design, facilitated by LearnServe, on an issue that's facing your community, but bringing young people into this sort of space as problem solvers and leaders in that. And then our hope as this grows over the coming years that eventually we would be able to have a cohort of LearnServe Fellows that is meeting right here in Bowie, potentially in partnership with Bowie State, but not having to travel into Washington, D.C., but still having points of intersection with LearnServe cohorts, both in Washington, D.C. And in Baltimore, as we do our Baltimore chapter as well. And so that's really the excitement and opportunity for you all to have students from your city be part of the LearnServe program with this deep local understanding and opportunities to connect with peers all around the world, and to bring that back to Bowie through the role of energy, innovation, and social change. So thank you very much for this invitation.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Scott. At this time, I will, before I turn it over to my colleagues, I want to say you did great. I know you were nervous, but you did absolutely great. So thank you so much for sharing your experience through LearnServe with us. I'm very familiar with Posse because during my time at Microsoft, I had a mentee who is now at Google, who was placed through her Posse scholarship in the CEO's office and had a direct relationship with Satya Nadella, who's the CEO of Microsoft, and he's gone on to support her career throughout everything that she's done. And now she's left Microsoft and just joined Google this week. And so I'm very familiar with how those opportunities can propel people, especially young people, to really go forward in their careers and really make something beautiful of themselves. And so thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. We really appreciate getting that direct insight from you as somebody who is a fellow. At this time, I'll turn it over to my colleagues to see if anybody has any questions for Scott or comments. Councilmember.
Thank you again, Scott, for coming out this evening. I do have a couple questions. I heard when you said that this was 10 students per year. Oh.
So, interest. the community. Yeah.
Go abroad and get this as well.
Yeah, so the hope would be that we have 10 students from Bowie participate this year in our first year fellowship program, then join our second year incubator program, which is a virtual program, and travel abroad to Zambia to so that is a plan.
Selecting your students.
So we are looking for the students who have that latent leadership potential, who may not be the academic all-stars or athletic all-stars, but have that raw passion of like, I want to do something good in the world, and I don't quite know what, and I don't quite know how. And so we work with schools, community partners, and other networks to try to find those students. So, relationships with either faculty members or administrators at high schools. We work closely with them to identify students that they think would be strong candidates, as well as putting it out there over listservs. So thinking about students who may be homeschooled or otherwise, we're putting that out there to those communities. We found that it attracts that sort of student who may not identify as an entrepreneur and is more interested in social justice, and we sort of sneak in those leadership, business, and entrepreneurship skills into students who may not have necessarily been thinking about them.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Just a quick question out of curiosity. How did you land on Paraguay and Zambia as the countries for partnership?
Yes, it is an amazing question. I didn't go into the history of the organization, but we actually started in 2003, primarily focused on outbound travel experiences for young people from the Washington, D.C. region. Initially to Ethiopia, and then as political tensions made it a little bit more difficult for travel, reached out to folks in Zambia through Peace Corps connections there, Paraguay through a former ambassador from Paraguay to the U.S. who met one of our board members. We've also had programs in Jamaica and South Africa. And so it's a sort of random mix, but what we've found is that the part that makes it a defining experience for the young people is not necessarily sort of how flashy the country is, but whether the host organizations and partners there really understand what to do with a group of American high school students and are modeling that type of community-led social change work that organization believes in. So Paraguay and Zambia are incredibly random countries, but we've been partnered with organizations there since 2006, 2007, and those partnerships have grown organically from sort of host sites receiving outbound U.S. visitors to last year. This was the first time that they were actually running their own fellowship programs in country, and then preparing their students to be in full dialogue as peers with the U.S. students, and then a more sophisticated travel experience as a students.
Thank you for that.
Our hope is to be able to grow that list of countries as we grow. So hopefully a couple years from now, I'll be able to stand here and share a wider list. I know we were talking about Kenya and others as possible locations as well.
I appreciate the travel for young people, being able to see, not just what's outside the state, outside the country, but what's outside of what's outside the country, and then also folks go to more traditional countries, to visit, but when you go and you actually see what the world has to offer and, accept other people's cultures and share your culture, really, you can kind of take a little bit from each country and each, experience and culture that get to experience. So really appreciate the thought that went into that. Yeah. Thank you.
Come back down this way. Okay. Councilmember Truesdale.
Great presentation. Just have a question in terms of staffing and when you say travel abroad, how do you staff in terms of interpreters for these different places? How is that? How is that particular place maybe like this is where we're going, or the staff? How is it?
In terms of our staffing, we've got a core team here in DC of 5 full-time staff. Part-time staff who are running the program here, so many of them either educators or entrepreneurs themselves. A number of LearnServe alumni actually have been part of that. And then for the overseas travel, the model that we've typically used is having 2 travel leaders from the U.S. side. So again, typically educators, other folks who have been involved in our program, who have international experience and youth experience leading from this end, and then working closely with our partner organizations and having at least one, if not several, staff members from that partner organization help facilitate the experience as legal guides. And so Domingo Alonso in Paraguay, again, has been working with us in this community center, been working with us since 2006. And so he's seen generations of young people from the greater Washington, D.C. region come through his community and knows sort of how to navigate that experience and facilitate that cross-cultural dialogue. And same thing, Jeff Achuru from the Injera Skills Youth Training Center in Osaka. We've been working with him for a number of years, both on the outbound travel side as well as he's been the lead facilitator for programs in the country for his own students doing the social entrepreneurship methodology. So really working with folks who've got that youth experience, international experience, and know how to curate an experience that's not just like travel tourism, but really a deep, meaningful cultural and social change experience for students.
And you say your growth since 2006. What are your projections in terms of having to stimulate this organization to help more youth?
So we've been sort of a relatively niche organization in DC since 2006. We're growing incrementally. We're now about to embark on the next phase of our growth. Part of that is through the overseas partnerships, the two countries that I mentioned. We've got sort of partnerships in the works in a couple of other countries that we've been working with similar community-based organizations. And then here on the US side, really excited about this partnership possibility with Bowie and with Prince George's County more broadly. And then we're also in conversations with folks in Baltimore as well, and looking to build out this sort of DC to Baltimore, Maryland, Northern Virginia stretch to have many more young people involved. And so both deeply understanding their own sort of pockets of this region, but then also having opportunities for young people from Bowie to get to know young people in Baltimore, Arlington County, Fairfax County. So that's our vision for growth, and hoping to get to the point where in the next 10 or so years, we're serving 1,000 students annually around the world in different communities, both locally in their community and then through these travel opportunities as well.
Thank you much.
Wolfie?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I appreciate the moment, the time that you've taken to be here this evening. It sounds like you've got a great program and a great deal of energy behind this, which is wonderful. I have a few questions for you. How many participate currently? I heard you mention 1,000 at some point as a goal that downstream. So you mentioned you have how many people on staff? Five full-time, plus you've got volunteers and that sort of stuff. How many students participate?
Participate for this year in the Washington, D.C. region, so D.C., Maryland, and Northern Virginia. We're looking at about 60 to 75 students. Will be the cohort size for the Fellows Program cohort here in D.C. In addition to that, we're looking to have 40 students in Lusaka, Zambia, and 20 students in Asunción, Paraguay, participating concurrently in the first-year program. And then we're looking at 20 to 25 students in our second-year virtual incubator program. On the U.S. side, all of them are graduates from last year's Fellows Program, and similarly from the Zambia side.
What does the typical model look like for a student who's participating in the program? How did they get there in terms of funding, in terms of awareness of the opportunity and the selection?
The relationships that we have grown organically, and a lot of them are through schools and community partners. And so we would work, so in Bowie, identifying and working with you all to figure out, are there some anchor community partners that we should be reaching out to in addition to the ones that we've researched ourselves? Typically, it's either a community service coordinator in the school, it could be a social studies teacher, someone else. And what I found is someone who really has the trust and ear of the student. And typically, they will both put out a broad blast sort of announcement, either over school listserv, school assembly. But what we also ask them to do is tap the shoulders of students who they think would be a good fit. I find that to be really powerful because often the students that they identify are the ones who might not raise their hand when they see leadership and entrepreneurship program. And it's often that the teacher sees something in them that they may not yet see in themselves. And so those are the students that we've been really excited to work with. And so that's typically the entry point for students. Sometimes it's word of mouth from family members, talking to family and friends who heard about this program and said, hey, you should really check it out, or siblings who've been part of it. But a lot of it is through those relationships with schools and community partners who are eyes and ears on the ground to build those relationships.
So if I understand the part about kind of the social networking aspect of how people become aware and maybe get selected, the question I have is, say, social studies teacher at Bowie High School says, hey, tap, you should really look into this program. Under your current model, who pays for that kid? So, the teacher goes like, you ought to participate, and the student goes like, oh, great. Let me go do that, and then somebody's got to pay the bill for it. How does that normally get paid?
It's a bit of a hybrid model. So for students, not in all jurisdictions, but many jurisdictions, we have a sliding scale fee structure from $50 to $1,250. The full cost for us to run the program is $2,000 per student, and so that's already somewhat subsidized. Through a partnership with DC Public Schools, we offer the program free of charge to all students at DC Public Schools. For some of the charter school partners, in some cases, we waive the fees for their students. In some cases, the charter schools themselves are able to step in. And so it's a bit of a mix depending on both the jurisdiction, the individual school, the family's means that we make it possible. And so I think in the case of Bowie, the opportunity that we would like to extend is that if the Bowie City Council is able to support this for Bowie students, we would offer that program free of charge for students to participate in the Reserve Fellows program, so that finance is not a barrier. But for other students where there's not that sort of arrangement in place, we seek outside grant funding and individual contributions and do what we can to make sure that the finances are possible for students to participate.
So students can come from any number of places. So with that in mind, if we have a youth and family services bureau here. We do a lot of programs for our youth here in the community. I'm a little concerned about just the city spending money on a student that, some, I don't want to say arbitrary in a dismissive manner, but some arbitrary teacher says, hey, you ought to go participate in this program. Are there any other ways that you've done this in the past with other organizations? For example, I would like to see for something like this, I'd want to ensure that it impacts my students within the city residents, not necessarily just Bowie High School, because Bowie High School, which is great, but it serves a broader community than just Bowie. I'd rather see something that's focused towards my students in the city.
Work with you to figure out the terms of who's eligible, especially if this is coming with support from the city. I think we're going to work with you to determine the eligibility of that. And we've done that with other schools and other community partners as well. And each one is a slightly different conversation. For us, the goal is to really try to figure out who are those students who are going to benefit and who are going to grow the most from it, both in their own right, but also be those types of leaders who their peers can look to as role models and examples and bring some of that energy and spirit back to their school, back to their community. Forums like this, what would it look like to have more high school students engaged in a forum like this, weighing in on the matters of the community? So I think we can specify specifically which students would be eligible for this particular opportunity.
By specifying which ones are eligible, in my mind, it's more the other way around, which is going like, great, we just want to let you know we found 5 students. Here you go. Which, as opposed to somebody else doing the process, I mean, there's a concern on my part. I want to make sure that everybody in my community has an awareness of the program, has an opportunity to apply for the program, and has an opportunity to take advantage, whether they're going to Bowie High School, or maybe they're going to Eleanor Roosevelt, or maybe they're going somewhere else. It could be any place, but they may not become aware of it because that social studies teacher didn't happen to be their social study teacher. And I'd rather be in a position where we have this sort of opportunity, if we can provide for it, be made available to residents across the across the agenda.
Limit to one high school, and Velma actually went to CMIT as well. And so that was, sort of where our conversation with Velma had started a year ago, even before arriving here. So, yeah, definitely.
Up and running in place here. And what is your timeline for this year and next year?
Recruiting right now, so if we get the green light, we will work with you as soon as we're ready and start talking to the right people at the school, since the program is up and running end of this month. And then for developing a program in the future, say a Bowie specific or Prince George's County specific, but anchored in Bowie program to take place as a dedicated program the following year, we'd love to talk about that over the course of this year and see what's feasible from your end and our end to see if we can make that happen through next school year.
So when do you start when does the program actually start?
Yeah, we'll continue accepting students through October 1st is our opening retreat. So really want to make sure that we've got all the students lined up and ready to go by the opening retreat, even if they miss that first info session.
In my mind's eye, I'm not sure we can make that timeline in terms of we've got to, among other things, a procurement process, and we got to do a process for selection, awareness, getting the word out, and it's already, my watch went dead. So September 5, right? So we're kind of behind the 8 ball on it for this year, but this may be a really good opportunity for a longer term commitment on this. So selection process, trying to think what else. So the actual student engagement, the actual weekly meeting times, they're downtown and once a week, and transportation
For students from Bowie to downtown DC and back. Through charter bus is what we've been looking into. So looking at student travel, student transportation services, and hiring them to be able to facilitate this for students.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. I think this is something, this sort of thing, is really good for the community and the type of thing we ought to be looking into. And I would look to staff at some point here to maybe get some of our experts from our Youth and Family Services organization to start engaging in what this process might look like. But thank you very much.
The invitation to speak, and thank you to Velma for joining as well. And we're happy to get things started whenever you feel like the time is right for you all. We're really excited about this possible partnership. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks so much for taking the time to come out tonight. So the students would be meeting in DC twice a week for 8 weeks, it sounds like. In the first year, in the second year, they're doing a virtual program. In the third year, they're doing travel abroad, it sounds like. Okay.
The program is once a week, 2 hours a week in person in DC, but over the course of about 7 or 8 months, so not so many months.
Okay. So
most of
once
the
a week,
activity-
7 or 8 months,
Exactly.
year round. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Have you guys had any conversations with Bowie State? How about Prince George's County?
Not with the county.
The Prince George's County public school system?
Not on a formal. We've worked with other Prince George's County schools in the past, but not as well.
Any leaders or administrators of local schools?
Not recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And I echo my colleagues this evening. This is a really incredible program. I am loving it and everything about it. And I see that my colleagues all are enthused about it as well. And, I'm someone that I like to seek and grab opportunity while it's there. And I think that, perhaps we could, as a council, we could lean on our staff and to perhaps come up with a solution to making this happen sooner rather than later. I would hate to see any young people miss out on an opportunity today that they, rather than waiting, sometime later. So we'll see how that goes and how it plays out. But I would be someone who would want to see this happen sooner rather than later. Yes.
I appreciate it.
And just wanted to think, I think it's an incredible opportunity. It's such an opportunity, and I can see so many young faces in the audience and then people at home. I've gotten 2 text messages from just now from residents that are like enthused and happy to hear about it. So I know that this is something that could complement very well our youth services division, but maybe not. I don't know how it would play out. We would make it work. I want to make this work. Okay.
As well. I haven't wanted to go out there and pitch this to schools without knowing that there would be the financial support or ability to make it happen for those students. And so I think part of the reason for being here is seeking out what are the opportunities and support from the city to make those opportunities possible so that we don't raise hopes and expectations for some of the young people or families that are watching online and say, hey, there's this cool thing that's happening that other kids in DC are able to do, but actually it's not going to work out for you all. And so trying to figure out the sequencing that, yeah, I appreciate it. You're sharing this. So.
The city and the residents appreciate you. Thank you for
It's going to go really briefly. One, I want to thank Scott for coming out to present. I think for me in my position, I'm always out there advocating for things that would benefit the city of Bowie and trying to make sure that we do our part to make sure that we either hone in on the resources that are in the city of Bowie or make sure that we are tapping into the resources that could benefit the city of Bowie. And I really do believe that this would be of great benefit to our young people. I think my intent with the city, is for the city to fund it for 1 year and then advocate and lobby Prince George's County to take over and incur the costs for the expansion. And I know that some people may be sitting out there looking and saying 10 students, but it only starts with 1. If you are picking 10 different students that are across the city of Bowie and making this resource available to them, think about the impact and what that's going to mobilize along them and their peers and the experiences that they're going to share with their peers and talk about the benefits of what they're seeing and what they're working on and what they're learning. And that creates a ripple effect throughout our community. And I think when you talk about this global component, as somebody who, just recently turned 30 this year that has had an opportunity to see pretty much most of the world, it is such a needed benefit for our children to be able to get that global exposure to not just physically, but to be able to interact with people from different diverse backgrounds that are working on different things, that are solving different challenges out there in their community, to be able to bring that knowledge share and those ideas and that energy and that tenacity back to our community to invest in our community. You talked about entrepreneurial skills. We are a very big community that is really big on small businesses and has done a lot to support small businesses over our time. And so to see that you're honing in on entrepreneurship skills, and we have a fellow that's literally a Bowie resident that has started a venture, those are the types of things that we need to be honing in on and cultivating for our young people and mobilizing and really wielding our support. I want to remind people come to the city of Bowie because of the added benefits that they get from the city of Bowie. They don't come to the city of Bowie looking at us to provide or have the same resources as Prince George's County. We are known as a premier city that has added benefits. And that's why people choose to come here. And that's also why people stay here and they never leave. And so I would just urge people on this council, as we are thinking about this, to figure out a way to support this sooner rather than later, because I think now we have a unique opportunity as the landscape is changing, as there are a number of different issues that are rising out there in the world, to harness and invest in our young people very intentionally and very uniquely by providing them access and resources to continue to hone in on their skills and put those resources and that capacity or capability, if you will, in a very different direction. Now, just a couple educational points. Staff, in order, just logistically, I'm going to ask a question. Now, I understand that we cannot necessarily vote on this per se this evening. I don't know if this is a question for our city attorney or if it's more for our assistant city manager. We can't necessarily vote on this because in order to fund this program, that would require a budget ordinance amendments. So I'm sure that since that hasn't had appropriate time to be advertised, we wouldn't be able to do that this evening. And then also, I know that we can waive competitive bidding requirements if it is in line with good cause. And so what exactly would you need on us to be able to support a program like this evening? Or what would we need to do to indicate our intention of support should there be enough votes to be able to do that?
I'll start out. You did hit on the two large components. We don't have any funds allocated in our current budget to pursue a program like this. So if this is something that the City Council is interested in funding, we would need to do a budget amendment in order to allocate those funds associated with that. So we would need to prepare that budget amendment for that purpose. Also from the procurement side, as you mentioned, participation in a project of this size for our purchasing guidelines typically requires us to go out for competitive bidding. There are some provisions contained within the purchasing guidelines for the City Council to make a determination as to whether or not it is in the best interest of the city for waiving those procurement guidelines. So I think really what we need to do is identify what the City Council's goals are, if they want to be pursuing that, and then we can work towards allocating the funding and working towards the proper procurement for this in terms of the terms and what it is we are buying for the amount of money that we put out for this program. Ms. Lana.
So I guess I have two comments. First of all, it depends on whether this is in fact a procurement or a grant. If what we're talking about is a grant, then it doesn't invoke the procurement processes. Nevertheless, you obviously would need a vote and you could do it tonight to determine whether the council as a whole supports the initiative, and you would still need a budget amendment. If it turns out that this is more like a procurement than a grant, then in fact we would most likely have to do a good waiver, a good cause waiver.
We determine whether this is a grant or a procurement.
Discussions with the entity about what it is they're looking for from you. I mean, if it's a contract with obligations on both sides, that makes it sort of like procurement. But if you are essentially allocating funds to grant to an entity to provide services to the public, then it's a different animal.
So a grant typically is providing funds to the entity for them to carry out under how they operate and do their business. So if the City Council is looking for control in regards to which kids are participating, how that selection is made, those types of elements that we would all need to discuss to determine what is important for us, that may require a contractual relationship to ensure that the funds that the city is putting forward is actually going to get what the city is looking for. Probably going to have a little less control if it's just an outright grant.
Much for that clarification. I'm sorry, I saw a couple of hands. Okay, Councilmember Gardner.
If we went the route of a grant, could we put stipulations on that? We could? Okay. That was my question. Thank you. A grant agreement. And the stipulations that, like, for instance, certain information is provided to the city, status, number of kids, that sort of information. Okay.
If, for example, gets grants from the state to do various things in the community, you have to sign a detailed agreement with the state on the terms and conditions of the grant, and the grantor, i.e. the state, can claw that money back if you don't do what you're supposed to do with it. There are ways that you can enforce certain terms and conditions.
Could we enter into a motion to where we ask staff to work with the organization to develop the parameters if determine if this is a grant or an RFP based off of the dialogue, building of the relationship, establishing the relationship?
We can certainly do that, but since this is a I guess, new program or a new initiative for the city. We haven't ventured into this before, so it's going to take direction from the city council in regards to what your goals are, what you'd like to achieve, to sort of help frame out what we would be putting together in terms of a program.
So I draw a distinction because we had your next item on the agenda concerns the Coursera program, and at that point we said, you really need to go out to bid on this. And one of the reasons was you were purchasing something, you were purchasing licenses essentially. So I want to, because you're probably wondering why is this different, and so that was a different kind of arrangement than I think I hear being discussed tonight. But I don't want to commit to something without sort of having a better understanding and a staff level discussions with the entity that's.
So, do we want to direct staff to have a conversation with Scott and his organization to establish some sort of parameters and determine if this is in fact grant or RFP?
Before we move forward with that motion, I'm just going to recognize Councilmember Sub.
Mayor Pro Tem. Dan, can you describe for us, the city issues grants all the time through its city committees. Can you describe what that normal process is like for organizations that do process for grants and how those grants tend to be awarded?
So typically in terms of identifying a grant program, the city starts with an objective, something that it would like to achieve. So I'll give an example for one that we modified recently in regards to we had an electric lawnmower program, and where the city would provide grants for people that purchased an electric lawnmower or mulching lawnmower. Our green team, our environmental folks wanted to expand that program into a larger program that covered weed eaters and blowers for more yard care equipment to be able to move away from those small gas powered engines in the community. So they developed criteria that would help them meet that goal in terms of expanding that grant. So the goal was to reduce the amount of gas-powered equipment that is used by residents of Bowie, and that was to modify an existing mower rebate program to provide people that purchased electric powered yard equipment to apply, and they determined the criteria under which that would take place. Purchase after such and such a date. That's a fairly simple program in that regard for developing that. But it started out with goals of the city in terms of what it was trying to achieve. There was not, for that example, there wasn't another entity to partner with per se. That was one directly to our constituents. But that's how it starts in terms of the discussion of what are we trying to achieve, what are the goals, and then what we would be willing to finance or provide a grant for in the furtherance of those goals.
Organizations that you're describing grants that residents are receiving as rebates essentially, but there are also grants that organizations receive, right? Like the arts committee, the outreach committee. Can you describe that process since we're talking about organizational grants?
So that's a good example. The city regularly puts out education grants into the community. That is an outgrowth of the education committee that was looking at furtherance of projects that help educate our Bowie youth. And so they put the requirements together in regards to that program that they were looking for. The program would receive evaluations. They are reviewed by the committee to make a determination on who would be eligible for receiving those from the teachers or other groups that would apply for that based on the criteria of the application. And then that those applications that were recommended by the committee would come off to the city council for final approval.
So the city normally through its committees establishes a particular goal. The committee basically goes out, puts out an advertisement saying we're offering grants in a certain amount of organizations that can basically meet these particular goals. rules. Organizations apply, there's an application process, the committee votes, the city council approves. That's the process we're describing to me.
We start from any manner of direction. It may come from a city committee. We may have a program that may be initiated initially from the city council that gets directed off to staff or to a committee to flesh out. Or sometimes in your budget, you may see a program that was developed entirely by staff and proposed to the city council. So there's a number of ways that it can get started, but typically it's a development of what those goals are and what the objectives we want to see in a grant program so that we can document it, make sure that we evaluate the proposals that come in for the people that are interested in those grant funds, and then we review the applications that come in.
Size of a typical city.
I know we do have a number of parents that are out here this evening for our next agenda item, so we could just be mindful because it's almost 10 o'clock at night. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I believe the entire budget for the education grants, I think, is around $10,000 per year in total. I'd have to research a little bit more, but typically those grants come in the $1,000 to $2,000 range per each one that's given out for the education grants. We do have other smaller grants. I know planning is giving out a community engagement grant that's at about $500 per item. We had a restaurant improvement grant. And if I recall, that was up to $2,500 per restaurant. So typically in that range.
$1,000, $2,000. That is a typical
Of the ones that I'm thinking of right now, yes.
And typically they're available to multiple different organizations to apply for. It's very unusual for us to give one very large grant to one organization.
I have an example of one right now. I'd have to research that.
Okay, that was done in the past. Okay, thank you.
At this time, I'll turn to my colleagues to see if anybody wants to make a motion on any type of agenda item.
To motion to direct staff to sit down with Prince George's County as well as this particular group to discuss the parameters of service learning programs for Bowie residents and Prince George's County residents, and to talk about potential multiple funding sources, since this is a much larger grant than we would normally provide, especially on short notice, especially to only one organization.
A second? All right, it's been moved and properly second. Just a clear, quick question for staff. We can have discussion on the side, right? Yeah, okay. It's been moved and properly second. I'll open the floor up for discussion at this time before I call for the vote. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, the only point that I would like to make is just a point of clarification that would essentially mean that our community would not be able to participate in that this year. That's the only clarity that I want to draw there. So that means that we would be looking for the 2024-2025 school year and not this school year. So it would be a missed opportunity for this year. That's the only clarification I would like to draw. All right, so now I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, same favor. Nay. Motion failed. All right. I will entertain another motion if anybody would like to make a motion or amendment at this time.
That LearnServe can be flexible on timing and work with us. I like to make a motion to have staff and the city attorney discuss parameters of a grant and come back on our September 18th meeting to discuss a budget amendment for this program.
It's been moved and properly second, and I'll call for discussion. I think the comment that I would like to make at this time is while we don't have tangible examples this evening, because I don't think staff was prepared to provide those examples of grant sizes that we've been able to provide in the past. I do think that this is an opportune program for the timing in which we find ourselves in for our students and for our community. And given the fact that we have had over 41 emails sent in tonight to support this program, and a number of programs that are on our agenda this evening, which we don't normally have that level of citizen engagement, I am inclined to support this motion. So I will now call for the vote. No other comments. All righty. Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same favor. Unanimously passes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Scott. I think staff has their marching orders. Do you need any clarification? Or are you good, Madam City Clerk? Are you good on the motion? Okay, great. So staff and LearnServe will work together to draw the stipulations. Thank you so much, Scott, for coming out tonight. All right, now we'll move on to agenda item number C, mentoring through athletics. Now we have another after-school program that is on our agenda this evening, which Ashley Montgomery, who is the founder of Mentoring Through Athletics, will brief us on their offering for elementary through high school students. Now I'll turn it over to Mr. Montgomery. Thank you so much for being with us. Oh, and the only introduction that I'll provide here is as the person who also put this agenda item on the agenda as well. This is an opportunity where we have to be able to provide after-school programs for our younger audience, and that's a huge pressing need that we've been able to hear from the constituency over the last couple of years, to be honest with you, on this need for after-school programs that we need to provide for our parents, and we have an opportunity to do so. So I'll turn it over to Mentoring Through Athletics. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, council. Thank you, staff. Thank you to my parents for bringing the babies out tonight. Appreciate you all. This is, a really big deal for us. When we started, I'm actually, my name is Ashley Montgomery. I've been a resident in the city of Bowie since 1989. Raised in the city. Actually, that's when they were busing, so I graduated from Largo High School, didn't go to Bowie High School. But I started in middle school here. And, my parents had challenges, even though we lived in Bowie. And I think one of the misconceptions is that when you live in Bowie, that you've achieved a certain level of status. But some of us, we're living in Bowie, but we're just living in Bowie. And that was my family. And so my dad wasn't present. He had his own personal challenges, but it was the coaches at the Bowie Boys and Girls Club that took an interest in me, picked me up for practice, and poured into me in those rides from my home up to White Marsh Field. That really planted a seed, and that seed grew into this organization. In 2013, we started this organization serving kids, not just in Bowie, but in Bowie and Prince George's County as well as in the district. And when we started, it started out as a sports organization, but it evolved. And it evolved to us understanding that the impact that we needed to make went far beyond the football field or the basketball court or the soccer field or whatever sport we were doing. And in that, we became more than athletics. And so, this display that you have in front of you is just part of what we've evolved to become. One of the things that didn't take place as I was a participant in the Bowie Boys and Girls Club, they never fed my family. They never provided food for us. Didn't provide soap powder. They didn't provide school uniforms or the things that went beyond. Not that they couldn't or didn't, they just didn't, right? But when we saw that this was a need that had to be more than just sports, right? That's how our organization was evolved. That's how we became a community organization, not just a sports organization. And so now, in this opportunity that we are seeking, with the approval of the council and hopefully the support of city staff, we want to be able to provide an after-school program with a tutoring component. I myself am a 13-year educator in the public school system. And personally, I'm a kinesthetic learner. I learn best through movement, and visual learning. That's how I learn. And so I teach that way. And one of the things I'm able to appreciate is that kids often get it a little quicker when you connect with them the way that they need to be connected to, right? Everybody's not a sit down and get it kind of kid, and I get that as well. So that's our model in terms of what we want to be able to do with this after school program. We want to be able to take athletics and merge it with an academic component to be able to teach math skills, reading skills, writing skills while they are participating in an athletic sport, right? And so we are working to partner with Point of Ridge Elementary, as well as Art, Learn, Play, and to make this a reality. I know that this works because we've been doing it in the city of Bowie, throughout Prince George's County, as well as in the district. We know that the model is effective. We think it's a travesty that we aren't able to offer this here because, as Roxy said, people come to Bowie to get the extra stuff. And if they can't get the extra stuff, why be here, right? And so right now, with everything that's taking place, we're competing for residents as well. We're competing for businesses. And when businesses and business owners are looking for a place to plant their flag and plant their families, they want to make sure that they are getting the maximum amount of money or maximum amount of return on their tax dollars and anything else that they're putting out. And so, our organization, like I said, we've been doing this since 2013, and I've been coaching since 2006, and working with the kids, started at South Bowie Community Center, and working with those kids as well. So this is a reality that we have to make happen, and I would love to see it happen right here in the city of Bowie, partner with Point of Ridge Elementary and Art, Play, Learn, just to be able to make this something that will be memorable. Every young person is able to experience it. Since for this particular calendar year to date, we have our organization alone, we have served 567 kids and families through sports, academic tutoring, as well as academic support as well, through just different community events as well. In this program, over an academic school year, servicing 30 students each quarter, we'll be able to service 120 students with this learn play model. I think that's something worthy of being considered by this council and support this stuff. We do have the infrastructure to do a lot of the different things that I'm sure could come up as questions, because we actually have run after school programs at 4 Prince George's County public schools right now. So we are a Prince George's County vendor, as well as a contractor. So we do it all, get kids right out of the school. They come to our program at the school. We service them. Most of the sites is 2 to 3 days a week. So a lot of the things that we've talked about already, we're ready to handle, and we hope we can have your support.
Thank you.
She's one of the partners on this program. But also want you guys to be able to hear from Darius. And the reason behind this is because one of the proposed sites that we want to be introduced is at the Point of Ridge Elementary School, where we want to be able to get kids directly who like to participate in this program. And I think, I don't know, do you think this is something that the Point of Ridge community will be behind?
So good evening, City Council, Madam Pro Temp, and City staff. I'm Darius Hyman. I'm the PTA president of Point of Ridge Elementary School. And Point of Ridge has, for over 50 plus years, been a pillar of the community. We have supported numerous programs. This is another program we would like to, the PTA would like to support. We'll be talking to the principal and seeing how we can, make this happen. So.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
One, before I turn this over to my colleagues to ask any questions, I'm always going to advocate for District 4. And so I think this is wonderful that this is a program that would not only impact has the potential to impact children from all across the city of Bowie, but also be housed at Point of Ridge Elementary, which is a school that has been proposed for closure that we have been aggressively fighting against for a few months now. And so I think this will be able to help us showcase that there is activity and there is opportunity, and Pointer Ridge Elementary is a pillar of the community, as many of those community members that live in Pointer Ridge that surround that school will graciously and proudly tell you how much of a pillar and a beacon of hope that school is for our community and for our children. And so, of course, I would absolutely love everything in my being to be able to see this program extend, because as somebody who grew up playing soccer, softball, and ran track, that was the way that I was able to stay engaged when my mother wasn't around, because she was busy trying to make it, because we just moved to Bowie in 1999. And she couldn't always be present with me there after school. And so in order for her to offset that, I played after school sports, and that's what kept me engaged. And I knew I had to keep my grades up in order to make the soccer game, or else I wouldn't be able to play on the weekends. And so I think that this is one, not only timely, something that's absolutely needed, especially for our younger kids, since you are servicing elementary all the way up until high school. And I think what's also beautiful is that you allow high school students to be mentors to those younger kids, so you keep that model circulating. And like you said, as a community that is aggressively trying to attract more businesses so that we can continue to scale and grow Bowie as the beautiful community it is, and continue to provide opportunities for our constituency. I think this is just another added benefit for the times that we find ourselves in. And as things are challenging for families right now, I think being able to provide a resource like this to our parents who are really trying to make sure that they are doing the best that they can for our children is something that I'm willing to die on the hill for any day at any time. And so I want to thank you for coming out, and then I want to recognize any of my colleagues that have any questions for Mr. Montgomery. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Councilman Gardner.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Devin. Thank you all for coming out, Mr. Montgomery. Thank you for coming out again. Thank you so very much. Thank you for being here. Again, I want to say for the past, I can't turn to the city clerk to ask her a question. For the past 15 years that I've been in council, 14, 15, I don't know, somewhere around that, right? I have really worked to improve the lives of people. If it was just one person, 2 or 3, just for the better. And I've made that a part of my job being a legislator. Sometimes to a fault, I was more focusing on improving or impacting lives for the better than sometimes my role here as a legislator. And I shared during the pandemic, I found myself being pretty much a social worker to where it was exhausting, okay? But I want to first, I commend everyone. Scott, when he came earlier, his group and with LearnServe, they were talking about building a sense of community and involving young people and getting them to understand a sense of community and giving back, okay? You lived here, you said since 1989, in a great community as Bowie, you yet want to reinvest in your community. It's a sense of community, it's a sense of pride, it's a sense of building a legacy.
Absolutely.
And I just want to tell you, I personally am grateful that the 3 of you are here and wanting to work and support our youth in our community. So there's nothing, in my opinion, that is above our youth and our future.
Thank you so much.
Nothing. Our future is most important. It's paramount to everything. So this program, as well as the others tonight, I felt that we're have a great impact on the future lives of our community, youth, and I would support this again and again.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Any other comments? Councilmember Truesdale.
My colleagues, athletic, mentoring through athletic. Bowie is a small town, so I haven't been here since 1989, but I came in the mid 90s, and in the mid 2000s, I've heard a lot about this organization. This man is a young man of integrity, and to have this collaboration with the to learn art, play, learn, along with the PTA establishment at Point Ridge. I think is something that's worth being supportive. A lot of times with small businesses, we have young people, and that we train to work, and we use the metaphor of sports to help that go along. And when they have been trained and when they have been taught in a certain way with the mentorship, it really makes our job easy. I support this 100%. Keep up the great effort, and whatever we can do, whatever I can do, my colleagues, please, let us know what position we need to play. So,
Appreciate you.
And I'm just going to ask a clarifying question. Mr. Montgomery, could you please share with us about how many students this has the potential to impact throughout the Bowie community? What would be open to the city of Bowie? Like how many students, and would it be done on a quarterly basis? Would there be new enrollment every quarter? Can you just clarify the specifics of the program?
Sure, absolutely. So the plan would look like this. We want to be able to take in 30 students for each quarter, 30 different students. And then what we would like to see is those middle school students. So we were serving students from 3rd through 8th grade, right? The high school students that we would look for bringing in would also serve as kind of like mentors, and assistant tutors kind of program, TAs, kind of teachers assistants in the program. So that's how we're able to reach the high school students as well. But again, 3rd through 8th grade, 30 students per quarter.
For 3rd through 8th grade. 30,
Yes.
The 30 would be, and then the high school would be a separate.
High school would be those would kind of be our assistants in terms of facilitating the program.
And do you have a pipeline already to recruit high school students?
So, all right. So again, our program is not new. So we've been working with students we've been in the city of Bowie, chartered in the city of Bowie since 2013. Matter of fact, one of our high school students is here this evening. Did she fall asleep on me? Okay, so she took her student notes. Yes. So Mackenzie Wright, one of the students who came through our program, been a part. She's the type of young lady. She understands what the program is about. She would then could serve as a teacher assistant, which would give her the service learning hours, as well as her having the opportunity to give back some of the things she's learned. But then again, 30 students per quarter for the 4 quarters, which will give us 120 students for the school year.
And just to clarify, so the high school students have the opportunity to get service hours
Yes.
through the program.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. And then I think for me, a thought that's top of mind, it would be interesting to see how Learn Serve could work together to some degree. If they're going to be taking in some high school students, and then also with that hackathon, being able to kind of partner on that would be interesting to see what could come from that. If we are kind of
Scott, are you open? All right. Scott is open.
So that would be interesting in terms of comments. And then, sorry, I'll go back to Councilmember Hawkins now.
That is helpful to the city, so I really appreciate it. And to underscore a point that the Mayor Pro Tem made, Point Ridge Elementary, we're going to continue to fight to keep that school open. We're going to just see that thing through. And this program is a part of that fight to make sure that we're doing all we can to keep that school open. There's been many iterations of the city of Bowie, but what has remained consistent is education, sports and recreation, and our children, and making sure we're doing all we can to provide the best lives that we can for them. There may be a question of whether or not is this our responsibility? Should we be looking at the school system to act on this? But this fits into our culture. This is who we are, and when we can act, we should. So I appreciate the work that you all are doing. I support this, and I look forward to the city and Scott working. All of us working together to make a better life for our students and our youth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Not Councilmember, sorry. I just saw you. Before I turn to Councilmember and staff, what I will say is, as we are seeing that this is a brewing need in our community, there is no reason why during this time, as we are supporting these programs, that we can't direct staff to work closer with Prince George's County to look at the continuation of funding for programs and address the need that is brewing in Bowie. And so by no means are we positioning ourselves to be the end all, fit all, but I think we have an opportunity to act now and be able to work with staff to try to carry out that legacy and push for these programs to be expanded throughout the county as we show a proven success model here in Bowie for other municipalities to be able to adopt. Because as we all know, Bowie has been a trendsetter, not a follower. And we've been that for many, many years. And so that's kind of the point of clarification I want to draw. And the other thing that I want to highlight, you are another organization that seen a number of different emails in support of your program from the constituency. Like we mentioned, we received over 41 emails. That's a lot because we don't typically get that level of citizen engagement in our city council hearings. So to see 41 people take time out of their day to be able to support and you to have the amount of parents that you have here tonight to support the program at 10 p.m. knowing that there's school tomorrow. And then we have our PTA president that is really, really being the voice of Pointer Ridge. And Darius, I can't even imagine how you're still standing with energy because you've been working so hard advocating and pushing for Pointer Ridge, and we've been trying our best to support you in that effort. So to see all of that support, to me, just underscores and highlights the need that we have in front of us. So now I'll turn over to Councilmember Esteve.
Thanks so much for coming out tonight.
Thanks for having us.
How are students selected for this program?
So what we would do is we would have it open where students from our community could actually sign up and it would come on a first come, first served basis. We know that it wouldn't be a problem filling these slots just because of the fact that what we're offering in the city for free, we know that won't be an issue. The main thing with being able to be to vet the applicants to make sure that they actually are a part of our community.
What would that vetting process look like?
I mean, so no different than when, students actually register for school. We would just pretty much ask parents to register online. And then when they brought their students in, that they show some identification just to verify it, and that can kind of serve it as best we can do as far as from where we stand.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
So 120 slots, this is available to anyone in the city of Bowie?
Yes,
Okay. And this will be taking place at Pointer Ridge?
that's the plan, yes.
Okay. What happens when I get parents in Old Bowie who tell me that Pointer Ridge is 30-minute drive?
That's a great question. So what we're going to do is we'll come back to the council, ask for more money. So then we want to go up to the other to a school in North Bowie so that we can expand the program.
So we joke.
I'm
That's a
saying,
very real possibility, right?
no, and I get it. Again,
So we have, I'll tell you, I've been here for 8 years. We have a lot of programs today that cost $1.5 million that started out at $20,000. And so a lot of my colleagues were unwilling to raise taxes in our last budget cycle because they insisted that we could just innovate or consolidate. But here we are in September, 3 months after we just passed a budget, still somehow going back and rewriting things and trying to pull more money out from new programs. And so this feels less innovative and more like just us skipping through our normal grant process to just hand organizations money. That's what it feels like to me.
got it. So here's what
here's what I'm going to say. There's a lot of nonprofits in Bowie. Staff, do we give direct cash to the Bowie Boys and Girls Club? Do we give direct cash to the Scouts, boys or girls?
No, sir.
Do we give direct cash to the Bowie Interfaith Coalition?
No.
Okay. So my point is, we have lots of organizations that do similar work, right? And they go in the same line that everyone else waits to get grant money to continue providing the services that they're there to provide. So from my perspective, we joke about coming back to us next year and asking for more money for a second location, but that's probably what's going to happen. And in the process, we have lots of other nonprofits, probably $1 million worth, that are all going to be calling us this week saying, wait a minute, why did this DC Babes group get $50K just because they came to one meeting and asked? We've never heard of them before. We've been around for 40 years. I'm going to hear that from a lot of nonprofits this week. I've already heard it from a few. So just understand where we're coming from. I think it's great, the fact that you guys are local and you want to serve students citywide is wonderful. But we as a group really need to hit the pause button at some point and figure out how we're going to deal with the fact that there are lots of organizations doing similar work that aren't getting $17,000 after one meeting. So that's just where I am on this.
Can I jump in just for a moment?
Sure.
So I think if you think of this more as working on the incubator model, as you're funding a beta test of a program that can then be taken to the county level, that can be taken to PGCPS, because we all know that educators work entirely on data, right? And so if you haven't done the program and collected data and are able to show them that you've done it, they're not going to fund it. So if you want this to be something that's funded by PGCPS next year, it would make sense to make the investment this year in order to beta test the program, to have the data to present to the school system for the future.
And I think that's perfectly valid. But understand, we could be having this conversation with any number of other groups, right? That's all I'm saying.
Did you have any comments?
Sure.
Looks like
So
you were trying to jump in.
yes, so a couple of things. We have applied to the education grant before. We're talking about max $5,000. When you're talking about what we're attempting to do, again, even as a pilot, this is merely a pilot. When we looked at it, trust me, this is not. We're not retiring off of this at all. We are pulling from our budgets. This is meeting a shortfall, right? And I know you may say, well, that's $17,000. I get it, right? You're looking at it from that lens, but we've had these conversations, and I'll say this: we're coming together as a group, one, and so to maximize these limited resources, so that it's not just, oh, okay, well, we'll give you $17,000, you go figure it out. No, we have 3 groups coming together to really make this impact in this community. Now, ideally, yes, we would love for the people from North Philly to come down, and I guarantee you, some of them, they get in, they'll make the trip. They're doing it. They're going to Kumon. They're paying those dollars, and they're doing it in those other programs. They'll do it for this one. They'll come through. They'll make the trek across Bowie to provide their students something that they've never heard of. You don't have programs out there offering this way. Now, this program may be doing it over here, something. That program over there may be doing something, but they're not bringing all worlds together. And that's what we're doing, that nobody else is doing.
So before this turns into a back and forth, I'll just ask you to pause, Councilmember Estev, and I just want to remind my colleagues that these organizations, it is late. They are spending a lot of time and really trying to pour into our community. So I just want to urge people to be respectful as we address our comments, number one. And then number two, as a point of personal privilege, I'm just gonna state, this is not an idea of finding ways to spend money. This is an investment into our children, an investment into our community. And I think I would say that District 4 that I represent and speak on behalf of would feel the same way. If I look at all of the emails that came in support of this program, and if I look at the PTA president that's standing in front of me to speak on behalf of the children of Pointer Ridge Elementary School. So I just want to urge my colleagues to remember, as they address their comments on lack of innovation or irresponsible spending, that this is an investment into our children and an investment into our community. And that is a battle that I will fight time and time and time and time again. Because again, when it comes to our children, there is no such thing as irresponsible spending or ways to spend money. It's simply and solely just an investment into our community. So with that being said, I will ask if there are any other follow-up questions. Councilmember Wolfley, did you have a question? And I'll come back to Councilmember Stepp. You've been recognized, Council.
Thank you. Couple quick questions. Your organization, you're a vendor with Prince George's Public Schools. What do you do with that?
So we provide after-school program, pretty much at 4 different schools after school. So the students come right out of school, and we actually house at the school. But we also work with them with just mentoring programs as well at a total of 11 schools this upcoming school year.
And you do the same thing for Prince George's Parks, PG Parks?
No, we don't do anything with PG Parks. Outside of we do have teams participating in PG Park sports leagues.
Art Play Learn is a vendor with PG Parks.
I'm sorry.
Art Play Learn is a vendor with PG Parks.
Okay. All right. So, first of all, I appreciate the chair's opinions on irresponsible spending, but irresponsible spending exists everywhere. I'm not saying that it is here. I'm just saying it's everywhere, no matter what. It's just because it's for education doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That having been said, I think the program is a great idea, and it's a wonderful opportunity for us to have at the school. I share some concerns that my colleague has with regards to other schools and availability, across the community. It's a long trek up to District 1 and District 2 down to Pointer Ridge, and for an after-school program, it's going to be a limiting factor. Notwithstanding the fact that people will always come for something that's free, I understand. But at the same time, that's not the same equal access as somebody saying, it's available at your school as well. So that's a problem I see, and I see a problem in our ability to provide that type of resource for this. And I also have an alternative staff for this. I'm really concerned about, and this is, again, no knocks on your programs or the organization, but I'm really concerned, and I'm addressing this to my colleagues here, that we are doing procurement in a completely inappropriate manner. We have a procurement process.
Really quickly, because we do not have a procurement requirement for funds that are under the amount of $50,000. So we do not have a procurement. I just want a point of clarification. So that's not fair. So please proceed.
As I said, I believe we have a procurement problem, and that the issue is that we are engaging in selecting vendors in this type of format, and I don't think that's appropriate. And I don't care if it's $50,000, $100,000, or $25,000. I think it's poor form and leads to a lot of problems when you start asking about how we went around and doling out money. And I'm not saying that it's illegal. I'm just saying that from a standpoint of sitting as a board, we have an organization with responsibilities for doing this sort of thing, and I'm quite concerned with kind of item number 2 on the agenda. It's the same sort of thing. We're getting into putting money out there. So I have really some significant concerns about this, mostly on the process side, and not your good efforts, not your objectives in trying to help the community, but I do have some significant concerns about where we are with the process. So I do appreciate your being in here this evening. I thank you very much.
Before I recognize council members, I've turned to staff for clarification on our procurement process for funds under $50,000. Can you please clarify what the charter states?
It's 25.
25,000. So, sorry, can you clarify what that means?
So under $25,000 does not need to be competitively bid. If it is a procurement, it would still come to council for approval as a contract. As I say, a procurement entails acquiring goods or services, and I don't, as it's been described here, that's not what I've seen.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. Before I move on to Councilmember Steb, just one more comment, that inspired a thought out of Councilmember Wolfley's comments. I think we as individual council members have the opportunity to place different items on the agenda year round. And so when you see a need in your community, it is each of our responsibilities as council members to advocate for our communities and make sure that we're bringing forth to the forefront the opportunities and the needs that we see within our communities. Now, for me particularly, this is a need that I see in my community and also see throughout the city of Bowie. And so I would urge my colleagues throughout the year that should they want to have programs and things of that sort, or have different objectives for the communities in which they represent, because they are closest to those communities and understand the needs, I would urge them to bring that forth to council, like every of us have an opportunity to do so in our respective roles. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and recognize Councilmember Estep.
Umadu, we also have a budget cycle. We start in January with budget guidance, and we voted on our budget last spring. And that was kind of the main opportunity to set goals for staff, set goals and objectives for the city, and identify where funding would come from for those things. So I agree completely. It's all of our responsibility to year-round think of ways that we can help. But we do have a pretty well-established process for how to go about that. And right now, in one case, a program that starts in 3 weeks, and we're breaking the piggy bank from an already voted on budget to pull out $50,000 to fully fund a program that most of us are just learning about tonight, right outside of that normal budget. And so there's a lot of things that are kind of happening a little bit irregularly, and also in a manner that are going to leave a lot of groups feeling like, wait a second, we've been here for 40 years. We provide a lot of services that we're not getting rich off of for our residents. Why didn't we get approached about $10,000 or $20,000 to do what we do, what we've been doing for years? And I think especially if folks have been really involved for a while, they know the huge number of volunteers and people who give freely of their time to many organizations, including the Bowie Interfaith Food Pantry right behind us, where folks have been working for free for years and provide critical services for residents, and not for anywhere near amount of money that I've ever seen, at least in a single grant. And so I do have concerns about how we've been doing this process. I love this organization. I love that they're local to Bowie. I love what they're doing. I love that it's open to residents citywide, and it may well be a program that we want to expand on in the future, if the county doesn't want to take it on. I am prepared to support it tonight. I am a little bit concerned about how we're doing this business, though. And moving forward, I think we as a group need to get on the same page about how to address funding issues, especially when we're talking about something larger than $5,000 or $10,000 here or there. That being said, I appreciate my colleagues' time. I appreciate this being brought to us.
Councilmember Gardner.
Mayor Pro Tem Ndevamadu, and again, I want to thank Mr. Montgomery and his team for coming out this evening. I wanted to say that I do echo many of the comments of my colleagues tonight. I will defend the fact that there are other organizations just as yourself do too have the opportunity to come in front of council and ask. We haven't heard from them. I haven't. Okay, you are here and you're asking because you have a need. If we had a ton of groups coming in, then we may, and I do believe, listening to Councilmember Esteve, going forward, I think that we should put together some process for this to eliminate, a cattle call or a rush of people coming in. But tonight, you're here. I have not seen other organizations coming forward other than what Mayor Pro Tem Ndevamadu doing her research and her work, bringing people forward and understanding that what you're doing is for the greater good. The greater good. You're investing your time, which is your biggest investment, not money, your time. We run out of time, but there's money is never ending. My colleague, Councilmember Esteve, you mentioned about the budget to where none of us wanted to raise taxes to fund such programs. I don't remember you voting for an increase of taxes, Councilmember Esteve. In fact, I think I was the only one who voted for that. I'm not trying to slam you or anything, just being factual. And Councilmember Wolfley, you mentioned about the money of just throwing away money. I wish you had the same kind of response when you tossed away 23 million of our dollars on the ice arena. And this group here is asking for the betterment of lives. So I'm going to say this, I support this. I want to put a process in place going forward so that we, can avoid having groups coming in and asking, and maybe we have some sort, but today there is no process. Because there's no process, I think that benefits you. I support what you're doing. I want to see it continue. And if it comes down to a vote, you have mine. Thank you.
So now I'll turn to staff and ask a clarifying question. I think it's clear that we probably want to put a process in place around how we move forward with nonprofits and just grant funding. I know that we have city committees that typically have a number, they have grant money or an allocated budget of grant money available to be able to give out grants. And so I think what I would like to do is possibly look at directing staff to explore if there's a need to increase that, because obviously these organizations are coming before council, and I think part of the committee's objective was to possibly kind of help with some of this. And so I'd probably look at staff to see if there's a need to increase that to be able to present back to council, or if there's a separate process that should be adopted, or if we should consider a separate process outside of the grants that city committees have the ability to provide. So if that's something that we could direct staff, do you need a motion on that?
Don't need a motion. That's ultimately something that is very reasonable to do. If the city council desires to have grant making and expand that, I would say the opportune time to do that is during the budget process.
For sure.
Because that is when we're evaluating all of our revenues and all of our expenses, so we get a full picture in regards to what our priorities are and what we're choosing to fund. So when things do come in piecemeal, it's harder to relate back to the entire budget, because everything does sound
Completely understood. I just want to clarify, as we are seeing needs, that's what's inspiring us to act now. So while the need wasn't there when we went through the budget process, it's here now. And so that's kind of where this directive is coming from.
We do have the opportunity throughout the year as things come along, if we find that there's a need, regardless of where that comes, to have a process to go through and reestablish and allocate those funds. But we do need to follow through that process and actually budget in a public setting, so the public can see how the city is spending its funds. We are transparent, we communicate what our intentions are. So there is opportunity for that throughout the year, yes.
Thank you. In regards to this particular item, is there a motion at this time besides the directive that staff has been given?
I'm sorry. I didn't know it was 25K. I didn't know that. I'll second that. I'm going to fall on the sword and I'll second that. Okay? I didn't know it was 25K. Ooh, you got me.
I'll open it up for discussion. Is there any questions or comments at this time? All right, well then I'll now call for the vote. Madam City Clerk, can we please request a roll call vote? Thank you. Aye. All right, the vote passes. Thank you. So at this time, staff, you're clear on working with this said organization?
Understand, yes.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And we look forward to the impact that you're going to make throughout Bowie. Thank you for being with us tonight. All right. Moving on to item D, Coursera program overview and next steps. All right, staff will brief council on the progression of the program of Coursera. Just brief overview. A year ago, we started a pilot program with Coursera where we essentially set out to provide workforce development training for our constituency and provided them access to Coursera. That project was sent out to bid. It came back. Coursera was the said selected partner that we went with to provide workforce development training, sorry, not program. And now we'll hear a briefing from staff on how that program went. I'll turn it over to
Thank you
staff.
very much. As we're getting the PowerPoint set up, I'd like to introduce Kay Starr and Jesse Buggs from our Grants Development Office that oversaw this project for the city of Bowie. And with that, okay, Jesse.
Grants Office program, and ultimately selected Coursera from a number of vendors to be the online entity to provide us with the program. They actually have the capacity, the staff, and the resources and experience to do it. So after having selected Coursera, we implemented the program, and the program ran for a period of a year. You have the report in your packet, which is rather extensive, over 100-something pages, including the attachments. So we ask that you read it at your leisure. But the bottom line is Kay Starr was the coordinator for the program, and will give you a high-level overview of the activities.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for attending this evening. So as Mr. Buggs said, the program was voted on by the City Council in May of 2021. After 10 proposals were received, we selected 3. Coursera was ultimately the final provider that we selected in October. After some negotiation, the contract was signed in December, and program staff began working with Coursera to devise the program in January of 2022. We collaborated with the communications department to devise a marketing plan for the program. This plan included pushing out information about the program through all of the various city channels, the Bowie Brief, the Spotlight, social media, the cable channel, as well as ads in various bus shelters around the city. During this portion of time, I worked with the Coursera staff to design and implement some sort of intake process for participants. Unfortunately, Coursera's offered registration form was unworkable for multiple reasons, both programmatic and technical. So we used a different intake form, and I verified city residency using the online map provided by IT. We had over 300 people applied. 341 total actually applied over the course of the year of the program. We also entered into an agreement with Employer Prince George's during the program development phase to provide information about the kinds of employers and jobs that were available in the county, so that we could help to tailor the Coursera course offerings to those sectors. Of the 341 people who applied, 275 of them were eligible Bowie residents. Those who were not Bowie residents were referred to Employer Prince George's, which provides similar services, including Coursera training, as well as wraparound services, apprenticeship services, on-the-job training, and other programs for specific targeted groups. The residents that did qualify as Bowie residents were sent an orientation email explaining how to register for the Coursera program, explaining about the difference between the Coursera General Library and the Grow with Google certificates. So there were 2 different certificates for this program. The Coursera General Library was by far the more popular program, but had the more limited number of licenses, 125 versus 250 for the Google certificates. Every registration email that was sent out to participants noted that they had 1 year to complete the program, that they needed to be an active user of the courses, and they would have the opportunity, or I would give them an opportunity to re-engage if they were not using the courses, but after a period of time, I would remove the license from inactive users and reassign it to other applicants who are on the wait list. At the beginning of the program, we also arranged to have weekly online office hours with both myself and Coursera staff to answer questions from our participants, make sure that any technical issues they had were addressed. For the most part, the questions from participants at the beginning of the program related to additional services. They were interested in the training, but they were also very interested in reaching out to employers, hiring events, that kind of thing, which was not within the scope of this pilot program, but I did direct them to Employer Prince George's for further services in that area. The ultimate participant enrollment and course completion numbers were 165 participants registered a profile on Coursera, and those 165 people registered for 544 different courses. However, their completion of courses was limited by participants. 112 of the participants did not end up completing any courses. 87 people finished at least one course, 87% 87 people finished at least one course. 24 finished one, 13 finished two, 3 finished 3, and 47 finished 4 or more. Of the courses that were selected by participants, the most popular by far were the Microsoft Excel and Office course programs, as well as various programs relating to project management and coding and IT and cybersecurity. The Coursera library is still growing, but at the time that the program was launched, the Coursera library offerings were much emphasized towards those sort of sectors: business management, coding, IT, technical development, which didn't neatly map necessarily with some of the most major job opportunities here in the county, was specifically healthcare. Coursera was developing a library of healthcare related programs that I selected to highlight. On the dashboard, you could pick what programs you want to highlight for participants. So I tried to select the programs that most closely matched with the employment sectors that were highlighted by Employer Prince George's as the ones that were most in demand here in the county. Conclusions, initial public program interest was high. We had twice as many applicants as available licenses. However, of that group, the vast majority of the participants were already employed. There was a wide diversity of skill sets, a wide diversity of applications with different educational achievements. We had folks with GEDs, we had folks with master's degrees. So Coursera, the library did provide a variety of different levels of training, but that wasn't necessarily applicable to all the different education levels we had coming in, given that our only screening mechanism was whether or not they were a resident of the city of Bowie. Few participants ultimately were able to complete their courses, which indicated a limited return on the city's investment in this program. Depending on how you do the math, it cost roughly $575 per completed course. The participants were initially enthused but lagged on course completion, as already said. Partnering with Employer Prince George's on potential hiring events or job fairs in the future might be an asset to the city of Bowie and to job seekers here. That was a request that I heard multiple times from multiple different participants, ways to connect with employers, ways to access job opportunities beyond just training. And Employer Prince George's does organize those kind of events regularly in the county, so there could be some synergy there in the future. But those are the high-level points from the program, and I also have further data and maps and attachments that were also in the report if you want to ask further questions.
Thanks for the presentation. I think before I go to questions, I would probably turn to Coursera to kind of also do their portion of the presentation so that we can do questions all at one time. I know Colleen is here on behalf of Coursera, so I'll invite Colleen up at this time. And then Colleen can go through her presentation, and then we'll turn to questions and comments.
Good evening, everyone, and great to see you all in person. Thank you for the opportunity to present. I'm here as a resource for you as you consider whether you would like to continue with Coursera or not. Since you originally voted on Coursera, we've made a lot of innovations, added a lot of new information that I think is relevant to your decision tonight. And I know it's late, so I'll try to be brief and bring some energy to it as well. I'm Colleen Malloy. I'm Strategic Business Development Manager here at Coursera. I'm from Boston and happy to have come to Bowie today. Beautiful sunset. Also enjoyed a lovely dinner before I came in tonight as well. So for those of you that are not familiar with Coursera, I just wanted to give a high-level overview of what Coursera is in case you're new to the conversation. Coursera is a lifelong learning ecosystem. We now have over 24 million learners that come to Coursera either directly on their own to pay for a particular course, specialization, or a membership to have unlimited access to Coursera on their own. They may come to Coursera through the organizations that we partner with, like we did with Bowie. We partner with businesses to upskill their employees. We partner with governments to upskill both their employees or their residents or citizens. And then we also partner with campuses to supplement the content that their professors are providing so that students are graduating also with relevant skills as well as their academic degrees. I think one of the most important things is who is providing the content on Coursera. That's both universities as well as industry partners. Here in Maryland, the University of Maryland and Johns Hopkins are both content providers for us, as well as other universities like Duke and Yale and other state level institutions. From an industry partnership perspective, Google was one of our partners that was mentioned, but a number of different technology partners, and we're diversifying the industry partners here as well. And I'll highlight that today as well. Trouble advancing. So I highlighted some of the brands here I already mentioned, but I'll just flag some of those logos and the fact that there's now over 300 university and industry partners. That's grown, I think, by at least 50 since you started to partner with us. The other thing is we've extended the types of content that we provide. So we started as a MOOC, a massive online open course. From there, we grew to provide specialization so that folks could advance a skill by taking a number of courses together where they would be able to master skills. We also partnered with industry partners for professional certificates that are more aligned to specific roles to help people reskill or start in a new entry-level job. From there, we decided to break it down to help people build skills in a particular tool with guided projects. These allow people to have a guide on the side as they learn particular tools, like, let's say, Tableau, as they need to learn to visualize data, or as you mentioned, Excel, where they're actually have access to these tools in a virtual environment. Your citizens may not have access to some of these tools that they might be trying to learn to upskill or reskill into a new position that they need these tools. We also provide clips, which is more of a short form type of content where somebody, very quickly could be exposed to skills, decide if that's something they want to dive deeper into and learn more. And that could then lead them into courses, specializations, and so on. So there's a variety of different types of contents and credentials that are available now. We also released what we call Career Academy. This is a view into the catalog that's a career view that allows someone to learn more about particular roles that are new in-demand roles, for example, that they may not know anyone that's a data analyst or a data scientist, for example. So they are able to learn more about that role and then see what are the certificate programs on Coursera and what are the tools that they could learn through guided projects to prepare for one of these entry-level roles. So this is new and exciting. And we've been getting great feedback from our learners on this opportunity to explore a career without having to make a huge commitment to invest in a degree program and spend all of that money without knowing if this is something that they're interested in. So it gives them the flexibility across that. So I just wanted to highlight, there's currently about 30 different certificate programs. You can see here a list of them and who we've partnered with. We've partnered with industry with companies, and our industry partners should develop these programs that are aligned to these specific roles. Some of them are labeled with ACE next to it. That's because we've partnered with the American Council on Education for them to do credit recommendations so that people could actually get college credit for taking and completing these courses with local universities or community colleges, as well as some of our university partners on the Coursera platform. For example, SUNY Empire State College just announced a partnership with us today where they are offering credit for these programs for their degree programs as one example. So you can see a diversity here in software IT roles, data roles, as well as business roles. So these are a group of certs that are going to grow to about 50 by the end of the year. And I think when we first started, there might have been, when we started conversations with all of you, there were 12. So important growth. And these are some of the ones that are coming soon, expected by the end of the year. And you can see some of the additional roles there. Kay did a great job of talking about some of the program outcomes. We looked at it from a little bit of a different lens here on this slide, but again, very positive reviews in terms of the average ratings that your residents gave the courses, 4.6 out of 5. The number of learners served was 230 or more from the data that I received from my colleagues. There was, great utilization of the licenses that you paid for. over 2,900 learning hours. I thought I might also give you a skills view. This is a little bit difficult to read, but you'll have access to this. I know that people come to Coursera for different reasons. So people may come because they're trying to upskill in a particular area. They may be able to upskill without completing a course, for example, and may not, move on to something different. So course completion doesn't always mean that somebody didn't gain a skill. So I wanted to show you this skill view of really where you're seeing some outcomes here as well. And the purple looks at business skills. The dark purple means more advanced business skills. So you can see everything from entry level to more advanced skills being gained in business, computer science, data science. And I just looked at the top 10 courses by enrollment, just so that you could get a sense of where you saw the most course enrollments. Foundations of Project Management was the top one, Foundations of Data Everywhere, Foundations of User Experience and UX Design, for example. I won't go through all of them, but you can see some of the courses that were most popular here in the city of Bowie. Importantly, I wanted to highlight some of our innovations. Some of these have not been released, so I just need to present this forward-looking statement that, because we're a public company and I'm sharing information of what's coming. So I'll just pause there for a second. And then I'll just highlight some of the areas. So we've really, since the past 7, 8 months, 9 months, we've been focused on how can we leverage ChatGPT within the platform and leverage AI. So in a couple of areas, you'll see in AI-assisted authoring to allow partners as well as our clients to easily develop content on the platform for their constituents. Looking at role to skill programs so that people can really be focused on that and how they're leveraging our content, which has more than 6,000 courses now. I believe when we started, there were 4,000, so that just gives you a sense of the growth of our catalog. Coursera Coach is going to be released at the end of the year. It's in beta right now with a number of our clients. And this is a tool based on ChatGPT that will allow an AI assistant within the courses. So if any of your constituents are having an issue with a particular chapter and they would like that explained to them in another language or at the level of a 5th grader, this is a new tool within the platform that will support their learning as well. We're also leveraging it for multiple language support. So over 2,000 of our courses have been translated into 7 languages on top of the multilingual support that we already had. And then I think that the one that's most important for tonight is the last column, which is matching talent with opportunities. This is what we call Coursera Hiring Solutions. And this is an opportunity where we are partnering with our companies that are using Coursera that are trying to hire talent and providing a platform where learners on the platform have the ability to create a skills profile where they can showcase the skills that they've developed within Coursera and raise their hand to be interested, if they're interested in being hired for new positions. So this is coming out in 2024, and we'd be very interested in sharing more information with all of you if you're interested in how we could potentially partner to meet your needs in that area. I wanted to propose some options for you as you can, if you are interested in moving forward with Coursera for another year. So one important thing is that the scholarships that we provided through Grow with Google, that program ended. So we're not able to continue that offering. That was paid for by our partnership with Grow with Google, and they've stopped it. But we would like to offer an opportunity that if you, for option 1, if you renewed at the current rate that you had, or current investment that you had made with us, that we would provide opportunities for your staff to upskill. So 25 full catalog licenses. These licenses, as Kay described, can be reused as well. So it doesn't mean that only 25 of your staff would be able to benefit from this. You could rotate those 25 licenses along, I'm tired now too. You could rotate those to other staff programmatically. I've offered a few other options here because you did have a wait list and there was so much interest. Again, there's multiple options where you would have more access to for your citizens with more full catalog licenses. And then with that increase, we would be able to match with more scholarships for staff professional development as well. And then lastly, from a staff upskilling perspective, I just wanted to highlight what we call Public Sector Academy. And this is something that's being used by other organizations for their staff upskilling. And you can just see some of the areas that we're focused on in terms of skills for leadership, development, professional development across a number of different areas, digital transformation, and then more core functional areas, depending on the role of the staff. So just in summary, I just wanted to highlight, this is a wonderful opportunity for you to continue to provide high quality content from both our university and our industry partners for your residents, help to prepare them for Industry 4.0 and the digital transformation and the critical skills that they need. We heard a lot tonight about the opportunities in technology as well as healthcare in the region. As growing need from the employers. As you're trying to attract more employers here, you want a workforce that can meet their needs, and then also the benefit for your staff for upskilling. So I'll just pause and see if you have any questions for the staff or for me.
Any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you so very much for coming out here this evening. I am very familiar with the program, and I do have a question for staff. Are we aware of any Bowie residents who received a job or career change by enrolling in Concera through the city of Bowie?
That was not the sort of information that I acquired from participants. At initial intake, they filled out an application that said whether or not they were currently employed, what their current employment was, what sort of new employment they might be seeking, or what sort of skills they were interested in. But after that initial contact, I sent them the orientation email. I had the office hours. They all had my contact information. But this was a self-directed program, as the entire Coursera platform is based on the individuals picking what they wanted to do. So.
For those that, some of our neighbors, residents that may have enrolled through the program. And
to the list of participants and see if I can any responses.
I'm massively interested in knowing how many people actually made a change in career or either found a new job as a result of this program. That's very important for the continuation of it. Continuing this, I think it's important that we invest in our community, and we are a growing community, so we want to give our residents as many opportunities as possible at an affordable price. I don't want to spend money, but sometimes you have to take the monies and invest them back in your community and see it grow, and overall it benefits us all. It does. I do have another question of staff. I know you gave the presentation, and this is for me too, and for the listening audience. Do you know how many actually completed the program?
So again, because the nature of the program, like Coursera's initial offerings tend to be more oriented on organizations training within their staff, where they had ideas about what kind of skills they wanted them to gain. With the citywide program, this was anybody, any level of skill, any kind of career field. So saying completed the program is sort of it doesn't really fit with the way the program was implemented with the city. I can tell you how many people completed courses. But so Coursera, and again, Coursera's libraries have evolved over time since 2021 when we first initially started this. They had at that time just specific courses, but now they've started to do sort of like modules where it's all different courses on the same theme that you can complete a module in. And that was rolled out, I want to say 6-ish months. Like different newer modules were being rolled out about 6 months after the program launched. So that's another thing that the Coursera library is evolving. But in terms of course completions, as I said, we had a total
the exact
The
number.
total
was-
number of people completed was somewhere around what, 47?
Yeah, 47 completed 4 or more. We had 87 people who finished at least one course, but again, that of those, only 47 completed more than 4. So it's a hard question for me to answer when I'm not sure what you mean by completed
I would
course.
like to know of those that did complete, how many, as I mentioned earlier, who made career changes and who.
I mean, again, I'd have to reach out to the
Maybe.
participants and see what their outcomes were. Aside from the only data I have is what was in the Coursera dashboard and what feedback I got from participants.
Why I like programs such as Coursera is that technology is it. There aren't very few career choices to go through that aren't technology. I mean, we know we're walking into grocery stores. You have self checkout now. You don't even have cashiers. There are no, other than the state of New Jersey, there are no gas station attendants any longer that are pumping gas. I was in Virginia Beach with my family that's where I'm from, my home. So I wasn't vacationing. I was just seeing family. So I was in Virginia Beach and I saw a bagger that was bagging groceries, and they weren't employees of the grocery store. They were just there bagging groceries. And so there are no baggers, just the changes. And yeah, there's just changes in career. And there was one gentleman that ran for the Democratic nomination for presidency last term, and he had a program just designed talking about where every American is going to have a living wage of a grand or $2,000 a month, because there are no jobs out there for those that are lesser skilled, that don't have, I forgot his name. I was trying to think for his name. Yang. Yeah, there you go. Andrew Yang. Yes. And to where, because of this lack of skilled workers. And as you look at our job market now, they're saying in this area alone, there are 15,000 jobs in cybersecurity that are available that are left unsat. People are not sitting in those seats because they don't have the skill set. So these sort of programs and reinvesting in our people, in our community, I think that's the way to go, because if we wake up 10, 20 years from now and we don't have tax-paying citizens, then the city fails. And we want to have tax-paying citizens. And this $50,000 that would yield millions of dollars, I could support that as well. So, but I would very much like to get those numbers, because it is important that I see some outcome. I want to see that we got some return on our investment. And if not, then maybe we, need to find out why.
Devise a survey and send it out to participants, just surveying them. Were you able to reskill? Were you able to get a promotion or change careers? Or I could just send out a general email and see what we get back. I think a survey might be more systematized in the kind of data you're looking for.
And I'm interested in knowing salary ranges.
Okay. Yeah, in
Not
that case,
an
I think what I want to do is a
actual salary, but
survey.
salary range.
Yeah.
If you've had a change in career, if you've had a promotion, or if you've received a job, I want to look at, even if a person moved from being, for instance, no disrespect to my colleague here, but I'm just saying, a barber to a data analyst. I just want to know if there were certain things like that, because we do. Yeah, you still being a barber. Okay. And because of being a barber, my father was a barber while working at the naval shipyard. So, he was a laborer, he was a sheet metal mechanic. So a number of those opportunities aren't going to be available in the future for people. So I definitely commend Mayor Pro Tem Ndevamadu for making such opportunities available to our residents, friends, and neighbors here in Bowie. Thank you.
Offer we do surveys with our partners. Like we can share some samples with you to make it a little bit easier to do the survey. So because most of our partners are looking for that information, and that's you have to ask them in order to find out.
And this is what I have a friend of mine, very close friend of mine, who said to me the other day he is invested several millions of dollars into automated security guards they're moving to automated security guards and automated dogs to secure premises. Bodies are no longer needed. You know, that night watchman that we always saw, you know, at the banks or wherever, they're gone. They're a thing of the past. So we have to prepare our workforce, our residents, for the future. But again, thank you for coming out.
And I did want to tell you, we just launched 2 new cybersecurity programs, one with Microsoft and one with Google. So
Well, very good, very good. Thank you again.
Just one follow-up thing, and then I have 2 points that I want to make, and then I will turn over the rest of the time to my colleagues. One is a note that came from a constituent that I'll read out loud, who participated in Coursera, who said, "I personally utilize the Coursera Workforce Development Program. It helped me tremendously as I worked on my transition from the military into the workforce. Additionally, I have 2 children that could benefit from the programs. I am all for keeping them occupied and providing outlets." And so I think for me personally, what I've been hearing over the last couple of weeks is that we have a number of veterans who are returning home who do need support as they can transition into the workforce. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have a job. It just means that they're transitioning into a different aspect of the workforce. I think also, as I sit with small business owners who have a number of young people or a number of other different types of employees that work who need investments and trying to figure out, how do I go from being a barber to a data analyst? These types of opportunities are super helpful for our small businesses to be able to provide training for their employees. Now, I'm not making a call one way or another, but I just want to be able to provide just some broader insight on what I'm hearing throughout my conversations in the community. And I think the other thing I would also offer, as somebody who's also transitioning from a corporate employee to a business owner myself, I would definitely say that a course completion, and I know the staff is not saying this, but I just want to put it in perspective as a user of Coursera, and I didn't use the city program, I didn't go through it, I paid for it on my own. But as somebody who leverages Coursera as a user themselves, I wouldn't necessarily say a course completion is a metric of success, because different people use the platform for different reasons. It's very robust in its offering, and as I think about the Career Academy, which is really interesting and really timely that this has been released, and what it provides is an opportunity for people to see what types of pathways they could be going into and what types of jobs they could be getting and their skill sets could be leveraged for, and the amount of money they could be paid. And when you look at certain communities, traditionally, we have not been well equipped to negotiate salaries on that level, because we have sometimes not always known what our value is in those spaces. And so to see that a platform is able to provide that type of resource and insight to say, hey, if you're going for X type of opportunity, here's a salary range that you could be considering to be able to better negotiate that transition. I think that is super dope to see that you've come up with that, or that's something that's going to be coming out in the next coming weeks or months. I think that's really nice. I think the other thing that I would also say is, I think what Coursera is also helpful for is for those who are looking to go into other areas. Like me personally, like I know recently I've been taking digital marketing courses. I don't intend to complete it and get the certificate, because that would be no benefit to me as a business owner. Like it would not help me to say to my clients, hey, I have a certificate in digital marketing. Now, to be able to understand the landscape of digital marketing today and how it's being evolved and how it's being taught and how other companies are applying it, that knowledge share is very insightful for me. But the actual certificate itself does nothing for my business. And so I would definitely also say that different people take it for different reasons, and whether they complete a particular course and gain a certificate or not is not a metric of success, because everybody's using it for a different reason, because the offering is so robust. And so those are the comments that I would offer, and also the reflections that I've heard from the community. And I think part of what we had intended to do that did not happen for one reason or another was a case study. And I believe that doing this case study that we initially set out to do at the beginning of this pilot program would have amplified these stories of community members who took the program and how they benefited from it and how they succeeded from it. to be able to share how it has uplifted our community so that we can then take that to the businesses that we are trying to recruit. To also show that how we as a city government are investing in our community and providing pathways for opportunity for our community and preparing our 21st century workforce to be able to compete for some of these competitive jobs that we are trying to attract to our community. So I think that case study would have offered that benefit for us. But unfortunately, for one reason or another, it was not completed. I think the last thing that I would also offer that came up as you were presenting is the particular investment in our staff. During the budget cycle, I did speak about this. Unfortunately, we were not able to kind of invest more robustly in it the way that I wanted to, but I did want to be able to begin to start preparing and providing training for our staff, because the reality is AI is here and automation will start to kind of reshift the landscape of how certain jobs are completed and how certain tasks are completed as well. And so that was something I did speak about a number of times and I did push for to see how we can provide further opportunities of training for our staff, because I did hear from a number of different employees who spoke up, and I want to protect the integrity of their confidentiality, who did speak up that wanted more skills training to be able to grow in their careers and be able to be in better positions to take on leadership positions in the city should roles become available and people retire and those pathways become available. So I really do like the push for staff training as well, because I know that when we started the program, we did have some staff members that did inquire about accessibility to licenses, but at that time we had preserved it for the community. So those are the things that I do like that I've heard this evening that I wanted to offer my comments on. And I don't really have any other questions. I definitely would like to see how we go back and survey the residents that did participate in this program to see what their benefit was so that we can clearly articulate that. And I personally would like to see that case study happen, because I think it would be helpful for the city. And as we go out here and talk to a number of different businesses, like Councilmember Gardner and I have been in conversations with the Tesla dealership about coming here, I think this is another talking point for us to continue to attract those businesses that we want to see within the city to come to the city of Bowie to show another added benefit of why they should be here. So at this time, I don't really have any questions. I don't have any motions, but I'll turn it over to anybody else that has any comments. Councilmember Stubb.
Pro Tem and Divimati wanting to get more information on the program. I think that's a great idea. A couple things, just general, high level thing. How many IT employee vacancies do we have here in the city of Bowie?
Oh, we just had a promotion, so I think we have one.
We had a promotion, so we have one vacancy
Yeah,
in our own IT department.
Yeah, right now today, I believe we're at one.
Okay. How about in police and public works?
In police, we have several more. I don't know the exact number. It's over 10 vacancies in the police department. Public works, that is a rapidly moving number in regards to the number of people in the public works department. I couldn't be able to say, but that is the area of the highest turnover within the city.
So in other words, the city of Bowie is not having a hard time recruiting, attracting, and employing IT workers, but it is struggling to recruit, attract, and retain trash and recycling pickup guys, wastewater treatment guys, and police officers.
In terms of the volume of need in law enforcement and in public works, that is our greatest need for hiring. Yes.
Similarly, I know that we've heard a lot from the business community in the last several years that one of the biggest challenges facing businesses from an employment perspective is not a lack of managers, but a lack of ground level employees, bartenders, waiters, retail workers. Am I wrong in that impression that we've received over the years?
That would be what I understand. It certainly does change throughout the year and as industries change.
Okay. Separate question. Employ Prince George's at this moment and has, as I understand it, for a while offered countywide free workforce placement as well as training, including training with Coursera, that is currently free and available to all residents.
Coursera licenses for the entirety of Prince George's County. So just want to offer that.
Through I think like 20 or 30 other companies as well, not just Coursera.
I would invite employ Prince George's to clarify that, but please go ahead, Kay. And Mr. Bugs, go ahead.
programs that target particularly specific groups, veterans, seniors, youth, especially unaccompanied youth or youth exiting foster care. They're also, I believe, in the process of building up a partnership with PGCPS for training within the schools. They have a variety of initiatives moving forward. And yes, they do offer the Coursera program to all county residents. As I mentioned, when we got applicants, about 50 applicants who were not within the corporate limits of the city of Bowie, I referred them to Employee Prince George's, and I made sure that everyone who used this program and everyone who goes through my other workforce training program for Bowie Youth, everyone is aware of Employee Prince George's. I make sure that they're aware of the other programs in the county that are also there for job seekers.
I thought they had about 300. You know what the contract is.
Yep.
So the complete catalog and portfolio of courses that they offer. And as like Coursera, they have expanded over the past few years, where they've gone from a $5 million budget to about $40 million budget. And same thing from 25, 30 employees to 300 employees. So, Employer Prince George's now is offering 4,000 or more classes and courses and training. Plus, they have the wraparound services that they can offer the residents as they come through to help them move from one position to another, as well as a number of other support kind of services. So we don't do that, can't do that, don't have the resources or staff or time or money to do that. But in working in conjunction with Prince George's, Employer Prince George's, they are literally the leading workforce development entity in the entire state, and some think the entire region. So they've grown, expanded, and constantly doing things with different populations. And they're about to create a municipal program for Prince George's County. So all of these things are growing and expanding since we started this program.
Councilmember Wolfley, before I go to you, just a quick follow-up question for Colleen that came to mind while Councilmember Steph was talking. Colleen, can you clarify, is Coursera only for IT training, or does it also provide customer service skills training, and also ways to interact or diffuse conflict resolution, conflict management, relationship skills, and the list continues?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're definitely known because of the strength of our catalog in IT and data analytics, data science, because of the founders of the company from Stanford, for example. But we have a vast catalog that covers both human skills. We've grown our healthcare skills, it basically business, IT, software, as well as human skills and a number of different areas. 6,000 courses in the catalog. It's vast. We just released in partnership with CVS. It's not a healthcare customer service certificate program, but for example, there is a certificate program for both retail folks as well as a customer service one.
Thank you, Councilmember Wolfley.
Much appreciated, certainly at this time of the evening. A couple quick questions. How many concurrent licenses did we have? Was it 200?
So you had 125 licenses for the full catalog, and then you also had scholarships for 5 Google certificates, which I think there were 250.
So in short, we've heard comment about people not finishing the course, not necessarily being the end of the world, but at the same time, nobody wanted to do a certificate program either through this. So that's...
Well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I think access to the full catalog gave them access to 6,000 courses, whereas there were only 5 certificates from Google under the scholarship program. So I think you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it ended up being a little bit of a place where people, if they couldn't get access to the full catalog, then people were able to at least try access to that while they were waiting on the wait list as well. So it was pretty niche because there was only 5 certificates in that Google program for the scholarships.
Thank you. Turning to staff here for just a couple comments. First of all, thank you for the report. Very informative. Appreciate your input on that. have we referred people to the county library system as well? When people were looking at the alternatives, if they were boxed out from our program?
I had kind of assumed that people were already aware of the library, so no, that was not on my list of resources, but I will add that.
Yeah, I think that just for point of edification for everybody, the county has the library system, I think, has a program that's got like 16,000 courses available free to all residents who either have or want to get a license, not a license, a library card, a license to read, right? So I think that that's a great alternative, and I know Employ Prince George's has been very proactive in a multitude of classes beyond just Coursera, which they've made use of. I don't know how much they've made use of it in terms of what their uptake is, and I'm not sure that that's appropriate for us to.
Great partner. Like we
Yeah.
have a good relationship with them.
So I do think that there are some things that we ought to look into in terms of where we can refer people, and I too would like to learn more about some of the success rates we've had, what the implications have been. It's alarming. Somebody at the door. Can't listen. Oh, this is too much. Is it something I said? There we go. That's right. You shall not be silenced. There. All right. Back to me. Thank you. Appreciate it, and sorry for that unscheduled interruption. For those in TV land, we're all just fine. Anyway, I think there are some opportunities that we can share with people for other channels and other venues for this. And I'm very much interested in seeing what we can further learn through some surveys and that sort of thing for this program, and we can decide what the future holds.
The survey before we move on. I don't want us to move in a direction that gives us a bad report because we didn't do this right. Very seldom does one take an Excel course and get a promotion the next day or the next week. So they've been finishing this course for 30 days. Mm-hmm. If we were to do a survey now, I can tell you now what the results will be. So we'll talk among ourselves and get back to you about an appropriate way to do this kind of survey and the timing, so that it makes sense. Is that okay with you? Okay. All right. No, thank you.
Yep. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Wolford. Are there any other questions or comments at this time? Okay, great. I think we are. Should we finish our meeting? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, sorry. There are no motions on the floor. What Councilmember Gardner is about to try to say. There was a motion on the floor to adjourn. Do we need to vote on that? We do need to vote on that. Okay, so it was moved and properly second. Those in favor to adjourn, please say aye. Okay, those opposed, in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, nay. Okay, the motion passed. We have not adjourned yet. Okay, Councilmember Gardner, you have been recognized.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Devamato, and thank you for coming out this evening. What I like to do is to enter motion, but with, if I can get a second, I like to enter motion with some concerns. I like to move forward with an additional year of services and for our residents here in Bowie for the QUORUM program, with stipulations that staff comes back to us prior to any release of funds with the information of survey. I'd like to get some, I'm sorry.
On that, since we are looking for some additional information in regards to the program in terms of making a decision, I think that since it's going to be coming back to the council anyway, this will just muddle what we're doing.
Bring us back something clean with some information, the data that we asked for. You good with that? Okay, you guys? Yes, sure.
Metric driven person. So is there a time frame that you'd like to recommend, Assistant City Manager?
To develop a survey, get it out, and have time for people to respond.
As well as getting more detailed information as to the number of completed program. I know we have a number completed, but we don't know the number that may have entered into new jobs or new careers.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, 6 months. Good.
Well, again, nobody's going to have gotten a new job in 2 months.
Yeah, well, even if they haven't got a new job,
You want to tell us that?
yes. We can,
Councilmember Wolfley.
3 months.
This is not something that you get all answers all at one time.
Yeah.
I think that there may be an opportunity here to take multiple surveys, but to get back to us with something more timely, recognizing that it takes someone 4 years to graduate college. I don't expect to get the first judgment in the first semester on whether or not they've got a new job. So the same thing applies here. They're going to take some courses. I'm okay with that, but I'd like to at least get some information as we're moving along to get some insights, and perhaps when we're looking at the survey,
absolutely.
Maybe you can get back to us in 6 weeks or something like that.
Again, I don't think people are going to respond that quickly.
All right.
It's your
I would
call,
definitely.
but we can design something and get it out and give you what we get back in 6 weeks.
Yeah, I think.
Because I want to be able to gauge.
I also definitely
Something.
would not underestimate the power of our community, because a number of them emailed in to support the continuation of the program tonight, and that looked like 24 hours. So
Why don't we, to your point about making sure that we do get responses, just,
right,
I've done surveys as well, and you don't want to cut it off too short.
for sure.
8 weeks, something like that. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
And even including telling residents that we need this feedback to determine if we're going to continue this program. So we need it back as soon as, urgently. And sometimes people respond and let's just grab as much data as we can in a certain time frame. You guys said what time? 8 weeks?
Councilmember Wolfley said
Okay,
8 weeks.
8 weeks.
Staff, can you?
They need time.
Hold on. Can we? I'm sorry. There are too many people talking at the same time, so I'm just going to ask for us to pause. Question for staff. What council hearing does that put us at? If we're saying 8 weeks to respond, when would you expect to bring this forth back before council?
First week of September, so that would be the first week of November. That's 8 weeks from now.
is it, I'm gonna ask Mr. Staff, Mr. Bugs, you think we could get that in October?
No. November probably. Again, I do have other things to do too. But I'm just saying is that it might not seem like it. But what I'm just saying is that in order to get this done, get it done properly and get you some information, I think 6 to 8 weeks, which is November, is reasonable.
Of course, there.
And then I'm involved with this.
I was just being polite.
I know.
Very good. Sounds good. Sounds good.
The November 27th agenda to come back with the results of the survey. Okay, awesome. That sounds good. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All righty. Thank you so much for coming out. Meeting is adjourned.